Chapter 1268. Strike first to gain the upper hand 5. Mo Yunqing hadn't expected that Su Luo would directly kill her without saying anything. As she collapsed, her face was still filled with a disbelieving expression. Su Luo watched as she fell to the ground, then shook her head and sighed. In front of someone's face, you say you're going to tattletale, you say, how could you not die? Su Luo pulled out Qingying's sword. In the split second she pulled out Qingying's sword. Its blade was covered in blood, but in the blink of an eye, this blood was thoroughly absorbed by Qingying's sword. Now, the sword blade was bright like clear spring. Moreover, Su Luo could clearly feel Qingying's sword's lively and excited mood. So it turned out Qingying's sword could become so excited after it sucked blood. Su Luo actually hadn't anticipated this from the beginning. All of a sudden, Su Luo felt a strong, powerful pressure bearing down, suddenly attacking in this direction. Her heart stirred, and she secretly said not good. If what she guessed wasn't wrong, this formidable power pressing down would certainly be Elder Ancestor having chased over. Thinking of this possibility, how could Su Luo still dare to stay here? She activated her spirit force, made hand seals and quickly shouted in a low voice. Teleport! Her voice had barely faded when Su Luo's figure flashed, and all traces of her directly disappeared on the spot. In the instant Su Luo had disappeared, a powerful figure appeared beside Mo Yunqing. Su Luo's expectations were right. This person was precisely Mo family's elder ancestor who had already lost his mind. Elder Ancestor stared foolishly at the place Su Luo had just disappeared from. His thick eyebrows were tightly wrinkled. Slowly, step by step, he walked over. He completely ignored his favorite granddaughter that was lying on the ground. To put it more precisely, at this moment, Mo Yunqing in his eyes was simply just a block of wood. Old man Mo finally stood at the place Su Luo had disappeared, with an expression of sinking into deep contemplation, like there was something he was unable to understand. Very quickly, two figures appeared behind old man Mo. First Elder and Mo Zishu. Mo Zishu at one glance saw Mo Yunqing lying on the ground, and his entire body immediately didn't feel good. He dashed up 2 steps, half knelt on the ground and picked up Mo Yunqing. Yunqing? Yunqing, what happened to you? Wasn't she locked up in the tightly sealed room? Why would her body be stiffly lying here? Seeing this treasured daughter in front of his eyes with her chest covered in bloodstains, Mo Zishu's heartache reached the peak. Even the rims of his eyes were somewhat moist. Yunqing! What's wrong with Yunqing? First Elder, seeing the motionless Mo Yunqing, his heart was also shocked, but he was a lot calmer than Mo Zishu. First Elder saw that Mo Yunqing was somewhat not good, and extended his finger to search for her breath. There's still a slight breath. First Elder didn't know whether this was something happy or sad. Quickly save her. Save her. Mo Zishu grabbed First Elder's sleeve, roaring wildly and furiously. This was Mo Zishu's daughter, the daughter he pampered for 16 years. How could he possibly allow her to die? How could he possibly allow the matter of seeing his child die before himself happen? First Elder silently glanced at Mo Zishu, and he sighed faintly. You shouldn't have excessive expectations. Her heart was entirely pierced through. Her 5 viscera and 6 bowels have completely turned into fine powder. Able to let her have a last moment of lucidity before death is already extremely difficult. How could it be possible to save her? Mo Zishu, hearing this information that made him give up all hope, a despairing expression appeared on his face. His Yunqing, his treasured daughter. Would she die so tragically just like this? No. Even if we can only have a moment of lucidity before death, it will do. I must know who killed my treasured daughter. The expression on Mo Zishu's face was sinister and very terrifying. With an imposing killing intent, he tightly clenched his fists. Chapter 1269. Strike first to gain the upper hand 6. First Elder lifted his eyes. Upon seeing Elder Ancestor Mo stand there in a trance, he thought for a bit, and then agreed to help. First Elder's expression tensed. He spread the palm of his right hand up, and a ray of light appeared, this ray of light slowly forming into a ball of light. Mo Zishu stared at that ball of light nervously, afraid of any possible mishap that might occur. When the ball had grown large enough, this ball of light, containing an endless amount of spirit strength, rapidly attacked towards Mo Yunqing's chest wound. Around the wound, the ball of light burst open and turned into fragmented rays of light. These rays of light entered through her wound and quickly spread through her 4 limbs and hundreds of bones. During this period of time, First Elder's expression was taunt, his eyes unblinkingly staring at Mo Yunqing. This was the most crucial moment. If it was disturbed by someone, even he himself would suffer from the recoil. At such a tense moment, Mo Zishu held his breath with rapt attention, not daring to breathe at all. In his sharp falcon-like eyes, cold light was prominent to the greatest extent, flickering with a sinister star-like brightness. Whoever dared to kill his daughter would inevitably suffer the pain 100-fold. At this time, Su Luo was completely unaware that her secret was on the verge of being exposed. She kept on running very quickly. Time passed, little by little, after all the rays of light had entered Mo Yunqing's body. Her ice-cold and stiff body gradually started to warm up. Suddenly, Mo Yunqing's fingers moved. There's a response. Mo Zishu, who had observed everything intensely, got more and more excited, and almost screeched out loud. First Elder sent him a gloomy glare before Mo Zishu returned to his senses. Consequently, he hurriedly ceased to make a sound. After the fingers moved, a short time later, Mo Yunqing's thick, curly eyelashes started to move. After noticing this, Mo Zishu's eyes brimmed with tears from excitement. But this time he only watched closely, and did not make a sound to disturb the situation. Because he saw a fine layer of sweat had formed on First Elder's forehead. It could clearly be seen First Elder using Return the Soul technique actually cost how great an amount of his energy and concentration. After a while, Mo Shizu finally excitedly saw Mo Yunqing slowly opening her eyes with difficulty. Dad! Mo Yunqing's voice lacked strength and was a little bit husky. Dad's good, Qing. Mo Zishu gripped Mo Yunqing's hand excitedly, eyes full of hot tears. You finally woke up, Dad, am I not dead? Mo Yunqing's head felt fuzzy. She couldn't remember a lot of things. Pooh. Don't mention that word. No matter what, Mo Zishu would not accept the matter of his daughter's death. This time First Elder was gloomily complaining in his heart. Could it be that Mo Zishu thought this Return the Soul technique was easy to use? To say such nonsense? First Elder could not speak out loud, so he could only glare fiercely at Mo Zishu. But now Mo Zishu, who was immersed in excitement, was completely oblivious to First Elder's hint, and kept on holding his treasured daughter to say this and that, until First Elder couldn't stand to watch it anymore, and heavily coughed a few times. Only now did Mo Zishu return to his senses. He pulled on Mo Yunqing and loudly asked, Qinger, quickly tell Dad what had happened just now? Who stabbed your heart with a sword? Now Mo Zishu's face was twisted and sinister, emitting a seething murderous aura, making anybody who saw extremely terrified. Mo Yunqing also shivered a little too. Who was it that used a sharp sword to stab her heart? Mo Yunqing sank into deep thought. Qing? Mo Zishu saw Mo Yunqing failed to return to her senses, and rocked her body slightly. Chapter 1270, Strike First to Gain the Upper Hand 7. Who was it? Mo Yunqing realized that her mind seemed empty. A lot of things were mixed up, and she could not pull out any specific thoughts. Yes, who was it? Who did you see at that last minute? Mo Zishu asked in a loud voice. It's. Mo Yunqing rocked her mind with all her might. Suddenly, she had a flash of insight and remembered a fragment. Daddy sent Qinger to confinement. Yes, it's Daddy's fault, that Daddy actually sent Qing into confinement. Mo Zishu immediately admitted his mistake, luring Mo Yunqing to continue. What about after being confined? How did the door to the confinement room open? Mo Zishu felt that the Mo Yunqing at this moment was somewhat strange. Compared to her usual self, now she seemed rigid, inflexible, with slow reaction. Her mind worked slowly, as if she was a marionette. However, without a doubt, only Mo Yunqing knew who was her real murderer. Confinement room's door. Mo Yunqing moved her overworked brain cells with great difficulty, recalling memories over and over again. Suddenly, her eyes lit up, a pair of slender hands rigidly gripping Mo Zishu until her joints turned white. It could clearly be seen how excited she was. Dad. Zu. Su. Su. Mo Yunqing couldn't speak clearly out of excitement. She could only continue to say this word. No matter what, she couldn't say the following word. Book one. Book what? Mo Zishu wasn't able to make sense of it all, and he hurriedly pressed Mo Yunqing. Don't rush, you can say it slowly. Su. Su. Luo. The excited Mo Yunqing finally was able to say that word. Su Luo. It was Su Luo who killed you. In an instant, it seemed as if Mo Zishu's face was wrapped in frost. His rage grew without restraint with fists clenched tightly. Moreover, Su Luo is... All of a sudden, Mo Yunqing's body violently shuddered, almost fainting away again. What is Su Luo? Say it quickly. Mo Ziyu loudly urged. Is empty too. The more excited Mo Yunqing became, the more she wasn't able to speak, only her body was shaking continuously. At this moment, the sweat on First Elder's forehead rolled down one after another. He had already reached the maximum that he could support. Uncle, hold on a little longer, just a little longer. Mo Zishu could feel the truth Mo Yunqing was about to say was something that would be very shocking. He was reluctant to give up now. Although First Elder's heart felt gloomy, but he had no choice but to nod his agreement. Hence, First Elder bit his tongue, and used the temporary pain to stimulate his latent strength, continuing to maintain the flow of spirit force. Wink 3. Wink, wink. The Mo Yunqing right now seemed to have been swept by the autumn wind, shivering with cold. Her eyes turned upwards, only the whites were visible. She kept repeating this word, repeating continuously. Mo Zishu's brain got big from listening to this. Wink what you say ah. Mo Zishu repeatedly urged. Wink, 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 cough cough cough. Mo Yunqing's nostrils, mouth, ears and eyes started seeping out blood nonstop. It was a horrible sight to see. Blood in her throat flowed backwards, causing her to cough violently. Just at this time, Elder Ancestor Mo suddenly turned around. That pair of remotely cold eyes were like sharp swords, charging towards Mo Yunqing. Following his approaching large strides, an aura of a strong expert's pressure enveloped Mo Yunqing. Say, Elder Ancestor Mo suddenly stretched out his hand, like an eagle grabbing a chick. He directly lifted up Mo Yunqing by her collar, and picked her up high into the air. One book. The Su and Su Luo's name sound like the Chinese character for book. 2 empty. Space in Chinese is composed of 2 characters. The first character by itself means empty. So she was only able to say the first character out of 2 for space. 3. Wink. The first of 2 Chinese character for teleport that means wink. Chapter 1271. Strike first to gain the upper hand. 8. Poor Mo Yunqing. With great difficulty, she had just stopped coughing, and was just lifted up like this by Elder Ancestor Mo immediately. Her whole body didn't feel good. Say, Elder Ancestor Mo's temper was bad. After losing his wisdom, his temper got even worse. He saw Mo Yunqing didn't respond, and the strength in his hands increased by 100%. The current Mo Yunqing was already on the verge of death. With a gossamer of breath, how could she withstand such ravage? One could only hear a crack sound, and Mo Yunqing's neck was directly snapped by Elder Ancestor Mo Yunqing. Mo Zishu heard this sound. He felt bad inside. He stood up and rushed forward. Elder Ancestor Mo saw Mo Yunqing had died. In passing, he tossed her to Mo Zishu and even said an assessing sentence in displeasure. Useless. Having said this, Elder Ancestor Mo tossed his sleeves in anger and left. Mo Zishu's entire person was stunned. Looking at the completely lifeless Mo Yunqing in his arms, seeing the obvious purple on her neck, hot magma-like fury rose in his eyes. The fists by his sides clenched tightly. Hateful. He lifted his head, looking at Elder Ancestor Mo who was getting further and further away, and his eyes turned gloomy. First Elder directly slapped Mo Zishu's head. Mo Yunqing was already dead. Are you blaming your dad? Now he doesn't even know who he is, and you still want to demand something from him. Mo Zishu was slapped awake by First Elder. He couldn't help but to lower his head to look at the ice-cold body. All the 5 senses on the face dyed red with blood. The rage in his eyes ignited and soared. Su Luo. That's right. Even if you want revenge, you ought to seek Su Luo, that loathsome girl. First Elder expressed approval of Mo Zishu's response. At this moment, First Elder also wasn't feeling very good. In the beginning, he was seriously injured by Elder Ancestor Mo. Now he was barely able to use Return the Soul technique. The worst part was that he was interrupted halfway by Elder Ancestor Mo. So Return the Soul technique all recoiled back onto him. Everything kept adding injuries to the already wounded First Elder. First Elder silently wiped away the bloodstain at the corner of his mouth and faintly sighed. Ever since Yunfeng invited those people to Central Palace would get robbed repeatedly. Don't know if our way of handling things is retribution from the heavens. No. This is not retribution. Even if it is retribution, I will walk the path in defiance to the natural order. Mo Zishu clenched his fists, his face grave and grim. I vow not to stop until I kill Su Luo. At this moment, Mo Zishu was clearly concerned with Mo Yunqing's unfinished words. If he thought carefully, through guess and luck, maybe he could guess what Mo Yunqing didn't have time to finish saying. Unfortunately, those divine lights were buried by his rage, and no one knew when it would resurface ever again. Uncle, you follow the ancestor. I will go find Su Luo, that loathsome girl. Mo Zishu handed Mo Yunqing's corpse to his subordinates, and his body soared to the sky, directly disappearing in place. Mo Zishu went towards that remote small courtyard. But how could Su Luo be so stupid as to obediently wait there for him to kill her? It was obvious that this wasn't possible. At that time, Su Luo, after multiple teleports, had already arrived at the place she and Nangong Luyan had agreed upon. However, before she could find Nangong Luyan, she saw a cold and harsh back. This back turned around. Cold eyes bore directly to meet Su Luo's gaze. Su Luo's heart suddenly throbbed violently. She wanted to turn around to run. But in this kind of situation, it was already no good to flee in someone's presence. Your blood, it tastes pretty good. Elder Ancestor Mo's fierce eyes pressed tightly on Su Luo, his eyebrows knitted firmly, and wholeheartedly gave her a praise. Chapter 1272. Whether or not she could escape. 1. Su Luo was so gloomy. She was close to spitting out blood. Tasty blood? Of course her blood was tasty. It was the best tonic under heaven. Able to revive the dead. How could it not be tasty? Just now, this old fellow nearly drank half of the blood in her body. What else did he want? Of course, she cursed him countless times in her heart, but on the surface, she still needed to appear as a feeble person. Ahem. Su Luo cleared her throat. Elder must be busy, right? Then I won't disturb you. After she was done saying these words, Su Luo turned around, wanting to slip away. This old man wasn't in his right mind because of her, completely losing all of his intellect. If you were to say that Su Luo didn't feel a bit guilty, then that was impossible. However, before Su Luo could walk several steps away, an ice-cold voice called her to a stop. Halt. Although Elder Ancestor Mo's mind was not all there, but that pair of peculiarly sharp eyes specific to strong experts was still scary, boring into Su Luo's back, almost burning a hole through it. The foot Su Luo lifted up hung with uncertainty in mid-air. Helplessly, her body turned around, and she put a flattering smile on her face. Hee, what instructions does this elder have? You come over. Elder Ancestor Mo had one hand behind his back and beckoned Su Luo over with the other. That action and expression seemed as if he was calling a little pet. Your damned younger sister. You call this miss to go over, and this miss will go? Wasn't it like losing face? Besides, why go over? Wasn't it because he still wanted to drink this miss's blood? Su Luo gloomily ridiculed in her heart. However, she dared not show this displeasure on her face, because she had considered that this old codger's mind was abnormal. So Su Luo didn't dare make any movements that would stimulate him. A madman wasn't scary, but people feared a madman with formidable martial arts. A madman at the peak of saint's rank. Nobody could be sure, if he slapped a palm over, whether she would still exist or not. Come. Old madman's patience was clearly very bad. He saw Su Luo standing there motionless, and his thick eyebrows immediately wrinkled. Su Luo felt completely helpless. Because in front of an absolute powerful expert, all her crafty plots and machinations were useless. Therefore, Su Luo could only gloomily take 3 steps forward and 2 backwards, and try to stall for time. While she was stalling for time, she was also pondering plans to flee. Thinking about this, Su Luo sadly realized her running away escaping experience was very rich. From when she first crossed over to this strange world, Su Luo realized that she simply didn't have several days that were calm and smooth. The majority of the time, she was running. She ran even further than Forrest Gump. Elder Ancestor Mo saw Su Luo dilly-dally around like a snail, and not saying a word. He only used a pair of gloomy eyes with a cold threatening face to stare at her right wrist. Being stared at by his burning hot gaze, Su Luo only sneered internally. Wasn't this old codger afraid of having his mind invaded and occupied by black spots? Then his entire mind would fall apart? Su Luo linked up with Little Stone in her mind. Should I let him suck some blood once more? Su Luo sounded out and asked. Suck fart. How much blood do you think your body has left? Now you already are seriously lacking in blood. If you let him suck several mouthfuls, your life will be gone. What was more important, this loathsome girl's blood was how precious. He just couldn't continue to watch it being wasted by the old madman. Then what's to be done? Su Luo asked helplessly. Run ah. Little Stone glared. Don't you know how to teleport through space? Hurry, run ah. But I can only teleport 3 kilometers at a time. Su Luo spread out her hands helplessly. Old madman's speed in a flash is certainly faster than me teleporting. Who told her to have just entered the gates of teleportation knowledge? A short 3 kilometers, for any other person, that was an unattainable speed. But for old madman who was a strong expert at the peak of saint level, this simply wasn't enough for him to look. Chapter 1273. Whether or not she could escape too. Forget it. Consider it as me having lost to you. Although God's secrets must not be revealed to mortals. But here's a little hint. Damn gods shouldn't strike me down with just this hint. Little Stone grabbed his hair. Take the 256 threads in your mind and fuse them together into 128 threads. Then your speed can increase 10 times. Even traveling of 500 kilometers with one thought will not be a problem. Then how can I fuse the 256 threads together? This was the trickiest point for Su Luo. Fuse spirit dance steps with wind system laws. I can only say this much. If it is still not enough, then the only thing waiting for you is to be sucked dry as a mummy. After Little Stone finished this hint of his, he closed his eyes to rest and continue his practice session. He directly tossed Su Luo to the back of his head. No matter how Su Luo shouted, he wouldn't respond. Su Luo thought about it for quite a while, and could not figure it out. Fuse spirit dance steps with wind system laws? The problem was she simply wasn't a wind system mage. Her understanding of wind system laws went in one ear and out the other, completely Greek to her. A light of inspiration suddenly flashed through Su Luo's mind. She wasn't a wind system mage, but Nangong Luyan was one. But don't know where Nangong Luyan had gone to right now, otherwise, she would have asked him in more detail. Su Luo kept on thinking like this, but her foot still approached towards Elder Ancestor Mo slowly. Finally, she stopped helplessly in front of him. Elder Ancestor Mo's gaze was chilly, face stone cold, stern and dignified. You pour your blood out. This time, Elder Ancestor Mo didn't directly grab Su Luo's wrist and directly bite into it. Rather, he took out a barrel from behind his back. Su Luo's jaw slackened in surprise. This wooden barrel was as tall as half a person. This damned old man actually wanted her to pour her blood into that? Even if all her blood was used up, it wouldn't fill the first half of the barrel, okay? Grandpa Mo, are you joking? Su Luo's eyes shone, eyes darting all over the place, searching for the best route to flee. While her eyes were searching for a route to flee, she actually discovered a very nice surprise. It turned out that Nangong Luyan was hiding on the roof tiles not far up ahead. He crept over the glazed tiles, his body almost merging with the darkness of the night. If Nangong Luyan hadn't intentionally revealed a clue, Su Luo simply would not have discovered him. Their gazes met in midair, their eyes shining with words only they knew. This kind of tacit understanding, if their intentions weren't genuinely connected, simply would not be able to understand. Nangong Luyun took advantage of elder ancestor Mo's inattention and quickly formed a few hand signs. Su Luo blinked a few times inconspicuously, indicating that she understood. Old man Mo saw Su Luo did not move, so he extended his hand to help out. Don't. I'll do it myself. Su Luo pulled out that sharp dagger from her sleeve, signaling Old man Mo to stop. Old man Mo's mental illness hadn't broke out yet, seeing Su Luo voluntarily cooperate, so he didn't say anything. Only his pair of eyes shone deeply just like a wolf's eyes, giving rise to fear in people's hearts. Su Luo unhurriedly gestured with the dagger, as if looking for a good spot. In fact, she was waiting for Nangong Luyun's move. She was waiting for Nangong Luyun to shift elder ancestor Mo's attention away. Otherwise, when she teleported and it got interrupted, her ending would be very tragic. Su Luo and Nangong Luyun's gazes met, and they smiled in tacit agreement. Suddenly, a hand grenade-shaped sphere shot straight at elder ancestor Mo's face. Su Luo was already prepared. At this moment, she pretended to be startled and shrieked, directly falling to the ground, as if paralyzed by fear. Elder ancestor Mo was just about to curse this loathsome girl as a coward, but just at this moment, Su Luo's body disappeared into thin air, while that sphere charged directly towards Old Man Mo. Chapter 1274. Whether or not she could escape 3. Without a doubt, this sphere was none other than the legendary spirit pinball. Ancestor Mo pinched the spirit pinball in his hand. Just when he was picking it up doubtfully to examine it, one could only hear a loud bang sound. The spirit pinball had blown up. Smoke spread all over. Black smoke from a mushroom cloud dispersed, completely enveloping elder ancestor Mo. It was a 10th-ranked spirit pinball. If it was exchanged for a commander-ranked spirit pinball, then it might have some effect on elder ancestor Mo. But a 10th-ranked spirit pinball's force, for elder ancestor Mo, was just like a tickle. Although he was taken by surprise due to being enveloped by the explosion, but elder ancestor Mo didn't suffer any injuries. Of course, if Su Luo was blasted by the spirit pinball, her insignificant 8th-ranked body would certainly drop dead. Fortunately, her and Nangong Luyun's tacit agreement was completely in alignment. When the spirit pinball smashed over, she pretended to fall. During the fall, she launched her teleport skill again. When elder ancestor Mo wanted to chase after her, he was hindered by the explosion from the spirit pinball. Given such a short period of time, Su Luo had already opened her legs and ran, not even leaving a trace behind. Moreover, the explosion from the spirit pinball perfectly masked the fluctuation of space from Su Luo's teleport. So if elder ancestor Mo wanted to find Su Luo again, he would need to expend a lot more effort. Elder ancestor Mo cried out loudly in anger, and wrecked the surrounding area. Pity, this exquisite and gorgeous library, under elder ancestor Mo's indiscriminate bombing. It became bands of smoke, disappearing into the long river of history. Let's not talk about elder ancestor Mo's rage, and talk about Su Luo. Having found an opportunity to teleport, Su Luo teleported directly onto the opposite rooftop, without any demur, bringing Nangong through a countless number of teleports. The two of them teleported more than a dozen kilometers away, before they had to stop to rest. Because Su Luo's teleportation skills had not steadied. Moreover, teleportation consumed a lot of her mental strength. Although Su Luo's mental abilities were really strong, she could not endure such a drain, so she had to stop and rest. At this moment, the two of them sat on a huge rock, looking at each other with a smile. Phew, finally escaped. Just now, that old madman almost sucked my blood again. Su Luo folded back her sleeves, revealing slender, snow-white wrists. This look, Su Luo couldn't help but be surprised. Clearly, in less than 2 hours before here, she had used a knife to cut across. That knife scar was ugly and terrifying. People wouldn't dare to look straight at it. Su Luo thought she would have lived with this ugly scar for the rest of her life. She never expected that when she looked, the skin was actually restored to its snowy, sparkling and translucent state. One couldn't even see a bit of blemish. Isn't this too magical? Su Luo lifted her head up in surprise, her gaze traveling from her wrist to Nangong Luyun's face. Silly girl, your blood can revive the dead. How can it not heal such a small scar on yourself? You're underestimating your precious blood's abilities too much. Nangong Luyan, in a spoiling manner, tapped the girl's charming nose, with a soft smile lingering in his eyes. Mentioning this, Su Luo's mood immediately dropped down in a straight line, and she pouted her rosy, moist little mouth gloomily. That old madman had sucked almost half of my blood away. Really is such a pity. If you must know, just one drop of Su Luo's drop could extend a man's life by 10 years. Just now so much blood, how precious should it be? The worst part was that old madman was Su Luo's enemy. The more Su Luo thought, the angrier she got, and she brandished her fists angrily, full of unwillingness. Must find an opportunity to kill that old madman, otherwise, this resentment in my heart won't be eliminated. Chapter 1275. Whether or not she could escape for. However, Su Luo also knew, to kill the old madman, it was only if her master Rongyun personally undertook the task, whereas if they, in the younger generation, ran into old madman, they could only flee to the end of the world. Where is Beichen and Ziyan? Su Luo lifted her eyes and looked at Nangong Luyan, who was playing with her hair leisurely and contentedly, and asked curiously, they took Mo Yunfeng to fly kites. Nangong Liuyun's tone was casual as he replied offhandedly, fly kites? The three of them? Su Luo's eyes opened wide in disbelief. Nangong Liuyun's hands crossed over his chest, and his eyebrows lifted up proudly. With those two irksome presents, he couldn't be affectionate with his family's treasured Luo girl. Now he had finally driven them away. Su Luo immediately reacted. The two of them brought Mo Yunfeng along when they ran, right? Aren't you worried? Beichen is only at the 8th rank. Ziyan is still only at 7th rank. Nangong Luyan patted his family's obedient darling's head, and said leisurely, only through experiencing countless life and death situations would they be able to grow up quickly. Time doesn't wait for people. If they can't grow stronger fast, they will never keep up with us, and would eventually be eliminated. What Nangong Luyan didn't say, Su Luo, in fact, figured it out immediately. However, although these were the facts, Su Luo still felt bad about it. Don't worry, who didn't become strong like this? Nangong Luyan rubbed Su Luo's head, and made a complete mess out of her hair. If possible, he also hoped to protect his darling Luo in a seamless way, and raise her in a greenhouse and not let her experience any hardship. However, since she chose this highly ambitious path of a strong expert, even making all haste through trials and hardship, she could only press forward. This topic made the atmosphere somewhat grave, so Su Luo switched the topic. What were you doing just now? You came a little late. Nangong Luyan smiled mysteriously. Didn't you notice that the other elders had not chased over? Su Luo thought about it. Her eyes then were all smiles. So to say, it's all you're doing? What do you mean my doing? Why does it sound so awkward? Nangong Luyan was somewhat offended. Then the wise and military capable Your Highness Prince Jean, may I ask in the end, what did you do? Those several elders' strength are not lacking. The weakest was still at the 10th rank and could exterminate them with a move of finger. The mysteries of heaven cannot be divulged. Having said this, Nangong Liuyun's eyes hooked into a mysterious smile, and adhered strictly to his words, not saying anything else. Humph, don't say it, then don't say. Su Luo hadn't said the last half of her sentence, when suddenly, she felt a shiver down her spine. Now Nangong Liuyun's face suddenly went ice cold, eyes glittering like frost and snow. Their eyes met, and they could see the cold coming from the depths of the other's hearts in each other's eyes. Old madman has chased over. Quickly run. Su Luo was still guessing when Nangong Luyan had already set down the final conclusion. Damned old madman. Originally, they thought they had gotten away from the old madman's pursuit. However, they hadn't even caught their breaths yet, and he chased over again. Su Luo cursed angrily in her heart. But there's nothing to be done about it. They had just played a trick on the old madman, and provoked his rage. Now who would dare to take on his rage? Nangong Luyan thought about it, hugged Su Luo to him, and said in a low voice, continue regaining your mental strength, I'll carry you and run. Wait until Su Luo regained her mental strength. she could bring Nangong Luyan through teleport. This was the two of them working together, the most effective and suitable plan. Chapter 1276. Whether or not she could escape 5. Okay. Su Luo nodded her head seriously. She didn't waste much words, directly closing her eyes, with her spirit flying into her space. She used the plentiful spirit energy in her space to restore her mental strength. Nangong Luyan carried Su Luo on his shoulder, and ran forward with flying speed. After several roads, his figure had already disappeared ahead. Just at this time, Elder Ancestor Mo's frantic figure appeared in that place. Picking up the faint spirit force on the stone, but with no soul in sight, Elder Ancestor Mo's anger exploded, his palm directly striking down. One could only hear the sharp sound of a wind knife slashing through the air. Soon after, the rock Su Luo and Nangong Luyan had just sat on was split in half, disintegrating into fine powder. What's more serious was, this wind sword's mark directly extended to the ground, penetrated deeply into the ground. As a result of this wind sword from Elder Ancestor Mo, this part of the mountain was split into two, with a deep valley in between. Presumably, after a short period of time, it would be filled with rainwater and a stream would form. If Nangong Luyan and Su Luo ran away a bit slower, right now, they would be buried by this newly formed stream. Elder Ancestor Mo's face was ashen, his limp muscles shaking slightly. Clearly he was greatly angered. Just now, when that spirit pinball exploded, although it didn't hurt Old Man Mo, but it made him look battered and exhausted. Old Man Mo's gray hair was burned pitch black, with smoke on his face. The robes on his body were burned until only ripped strips were left here and there. The impressive Central Palace's elder ancestor now looked like a beggar that lived under a bridge. But this ancestor didn't seem to be aware of what a sorry figure he cut at this moment. He was solely focused on venting his anger. If he couldn't find that loathsome girl, then he wouldn't be able to drink her blood. Once Old Man Mo thought of this possibility, he would shout out in rage. He looked around and didn't know what senses he based on. He actually directly chased in the direction Nangong Luyan disappeared to. After all, right now, there was still a huge disparity between Nangong Luyan and Elder Ancestor Mo's strength, so very soon, Nangong Luyan's figure could be seen in the air. Elder Ancestor Mo's eyesight was pretty good. At one glance, he saw Su Luo, who was on Nangong Luyan's back. His heart rejoiced and his eyes shone with excitement. He only knew that he could drink the tasty blood again. Although his head hurt after drinking it, however, not drinking it, his whole body would hurt. Nangong Luyan felt a scorching gaze fixed on him, and he grumbled inwardly. Elder Ancestor Mo's speed was extremely fast, and he reached them in the blink of an eye. A madman. He definitely wouldn't shout for Nangong Luyan to put down the person like a normal person. Rather, he would directly forcibly snatch her away. Elder Ancestor Mo's face was gloomy. A pair of ice-cold eyes stared at Nangong Luyan. During this quick raid, an extremely horrifying strength started to condense in his palm. Nangong Luyan's heart cried not good. Surging spirit strength was all utilized. A dense protective cover wrapped around him and Su Luo tightly. But his heart was very clear. Such a formidable attack, even if his strength was completely restored, he would still be unable to withstand it. Now the power in Elder Ancestor Mo's palm had reached its strongest strength. He smiled gloomily. This formidable strength hadn't exploded out yet, but people could already feel a faint pressure and suffocation. Elder Ancestor Mo, as an existence at the peak of the saint level, on this continent, the people who could match his strength could be counted on one hand. How could Nangong Luyan from the younger generation withstand this? Chapter 1277. Whether or not she could escape 6. Under such enormous pressure, Su Luo woke up. And just at this moment an inexhaustible force like surging tide rolled over, exploding in an instant. This enormous strength nearly distorted the entire space around them. Halt! Su Luo shouted. But it was too late. What's done can't be undone, much less an attack that was thrown. This powerful palm strike attack towards Su Luo. The protective cover Nangong Luyan condensed out, under Elder Ancestor Mo's strength as a practitioner at the summit, quietly cracked like a spider web. The enormous strength of the palm strike endlessly enveloped towards Su Luo. From elder ancestor Mo's perspective, only killing this loathsome girl would stop her from running. Only then would he be able to suck the blood from her body. Therefore, he didn't even think before directly using a heavy hand. Now Su Luo felt as if her heart was being pinched tightly, and at that moment, she almost stopped breathing. The shadow of death enveloped towards her. At this moment, Su Luo finally realized what it was like to die. However, at this critical moment of life or death, Nangong Luoyun forcibly turned his body around, putting himself in front of Su Luo. Looking helplessly at the surging powerful palm strike smash fiercely towards Nangong Luoyun, Su Luo's heart stopped its violent beating in a split second. After being hit, Nangong Luoyun stumbled forward a few steps. His hands loosened and Su Luo fell to the ground. Su Luo hurriedly got up, body immediately dashing up. Her hand helped support that tall and lean figure, a deeply worried expression shining from the depths of her eyes. Nangong Luoyun wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth, and faintly said, "I'm fine." Old man Mo, this madman, seeing the first attack did not succeed, his second strike rushed over like the rolling tide, simply not giving them the chance to breathe. Nangong Luoyun turned his body around and extended his arm. A strong power came from the center of his palm, this power meeting old man Mo's attack head-on. Su Luo watched this ghastly sight on the side. Nangong Luoyun's strength hadn't been restored completely. How could he confront old man Mo's strength? How could he win? However, Su Luo felt faintly that something was not right. Because at this moment, Nangong Luoyun's originally black as ink, dazzling star-like eyes, now had traces of being bloodshot. Its depths were reeking of blood, ice-cold like a demon from hell, like the arrogant king of heaven. It seemed as if Nangong Luoyun's strength suddenly increased sharply. But how could this be? Just when Su Luo was still pondering over this in puzzlement, the two formidable powers met head-on. It exploded as if having been squeezed for a long time. Nangong Luoyun took 3 steps back. Old man Mo didn't move a bit, still standing in place. Nangong Luoyun spit out 3 mouthfuls of blood. Old man Mo had a relaxed posture. However, Nangong Luoyun lifted his head up, the corner of his mouth lifting up into a charming demonic smirk. "You are not bad." Old man Mo's eyebrows furrowed tightly. A junior from the younger generation actually dared to use such a tone to say, "You are not bad." These 3 words, this was simply being contemptuous of him. Court death. Old man Mo roared. His palm contained endless power and directly attacked towards Nangong Luoyun. This power was like an ice-cold water snake, entering and invading Nangong Luoyun's body from his mind. In Nangong Luoyun's blood-red eyes contained a raging murderous intent. Even the corners of his mouth lifted up sinisterly. Worthy of being Central Palace's elder ancestor, after going mad, even his power increased by many folds. In this world, there weren't many people who could hurt him, but this old man Mo was able to do so. Chapter 1278. Whether or not she could escape. 7. Nangong Luoyun's bloody eyes were red. The originally pitch-black eyes were like 2 ignited burning little balls of fire. The bright blood-red eyes shone with a strange light. Now a hard-to-describe violent power suddenly appeared from around Nangong Luoyun's body. Now, the feeling Nangong Luoyun gave off wasn't at the 10th rank, but as if he stood on equal grounds with old man Mo. That's right, it was as if the two were at the same saint level. How could this be? Even if Nangong Luoyun could cross over and fight higher ranks, now his power was restored to the 9th rank. At most he could harness powers at the 10th rank. How could he? Su Luo still couldn't understand after pondering in her heart. Now Nangong Luoyun extended his right hand, the skin on his arm surging with a cyan light. A strange pattern was faintly discernible, a primitive ancient breath assaulting the senses. The two people's fists met, and it seemed as if the air had exploded, intangible waves like a spider web, spreading in all directions. After old man Mo's body flew backwards and ruthlessly hit the ground, then he suddenly spit out a mouthful of blood. Nangong Luoyun also took a step back. He raised a hand to wipe away the trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. Su Luo's shocked eyes looked at the slim and graceful Nangong Luoyun standing there. Seeing him standing there with his clothes floating around, like a noble god, no one dared to claim to be higher. How could he? Heavily wound elder ancestor Mo? However, seeing Nangong Liuyun's figure tottering on the verge of collapse, Su Luo hurriedly ran over to support him. Before Su Luo could ask anything, Nangong Liuyun told her in a low voice, "Quickly go." Elder ancestor Mo's body was now laying on the ground hurt. If they didn't go now, then when? Opportunities were fleeting. Nangong Liuyun coughed in a low voice, but from Su Luo's standpoint, she could see that his palm was pitch black, as if it was burned by a large fire. He was definitely seriously hurt. Su Luo didn't have time to think. Her eyes were red. With great difficulty, she resisted her rage that soared to the heavens and the pain that shattered her heart. She hugged Nangong Liuyun and directly teleported. Old Man Emma watched, dumbfounded. A fully cooked duck flew away just like this? Elder ancestor Emo, naturally, was not reconciled, but he could only maintain a gloomy face and watch as they disappeared in place, and he couldn't chase after them. Because when their palms meet, Nangong Liuyun's palm contained the strong destructive power of the lightning element system. Moreover, this lightning element system also had poison. Old Man Emo didn't check and was poisoned by Nangong Liuyun, so his strength was greatly affected. Even if Old Man Emo was not reconciled, he had no choice but to let Su Luo, the two of them, go. Now Su Luo ran even more desperately. She didn't have time to ask much, and she didn't dare to stop. She used her all to bring Nangong Liuyun along and run. She firmly believed, the further away they were from Old Man Emo, the safer they would be. Although Old Man Emo didn't chase over just now, but Su Luo knew, the time set aside for them to flee wasn't that much, because once Old Man Mo's cultivation was restored, he would chase after them with his fastest speed. When Su Luo's mental strength was nearly used up, she had no choice but to stop. Laying Nangong Liuyun on the grass, Su Luo immediately grabbed the life-replenishing golden pill and celestial spirit water from her space, and fed it all to Nangong Liuyun. Right now, Nangong Liuyun's eyes were tightly closed, his face white as paper, with a gossamer of breath, as if he would stop breathing at any moment. Su Luo became more and more heartbroken. Her eyes' sockets were red. Suddenly, a light flashed through her mind and she directly took out a dagger from her sleeve. Nangong Liuyun had said that her blood was the best medicine under the heavens, capable of bringing the dead to life. Then, it should also be able to heal Nangong Liuyun's internal injuries, right? Su Luo didn't even have to think and directly cut down on her wrist. Chapter 1279. Whether or not she could escape. 8. However, before she could cut down, her right hand was stopped by someone. Su Luo turned her eyes to look, her gaze meeting with Nangong Liuyun's. "You're awake?" Su Luo cried out from being pleasantly surprised, while she directly tossed the dagger to the ground. The corner of Nangong Liuyun's lips exhaustedly pulled into a smile. That unparalleled, handsome face was pale, with a sickly look that made people pity him even more. "Silly girl." Nangong Liuyun extended his hand and patted Su Luo's head. "Who's the silly girl? You're the silly one. Just now, you almost scared me to death." Su Luo sniffed her nose and angrily said, Okay, it's this husband that is wrong. This husband will bow to you in apology." "Alright." Nangong Liuyun's tone had a hint of teasing, as if he was not injured at all and still teasing Su Luo as before. "A matter that's unfounded, why shout about it? Quickly, don't speak and heal your wounds first." The more Su Luo spoke, the more worried she was. Now, Nangong Liuyun's face was white as snow, and didn't have a hint of blood. Seeing this made Su Luo's heart clench. "Do you have something to ask me?" Nangong Liuyun pulled at the loose hair hanging down from Su Luo's forehead. Su Luo thought about it and finally asked, "You just wounded Old Man Mo, why don't we just directly kill him, to avoid future trouble?" Who knew? Nangong Liuyun only laughed and hooked Su Luo's nose. "In fact, the thing you want to ask the most is why my cultivation would break out at a crucial moment." He could even guess this correctly? Worthy of being the #1 in the world at being two-faced, treacherous and cunning, His Highness Prince Jing. Su Luo snorted twice, but still had to admit it. "This is the second question, but you can answer the two questions together." Nangong Liuyun smiled, but still told Su Luo the answer buried deep in his heart. "A very strong power is sealed in my body." Nangong Luoyun sat up and hugged Su Luo to him, letting her lean into his chest, with his chin pressed on top of her head. He paused and then continued to say, "This power is very formidable, but it also has huge after-effects." "What after-effects?" Su Luo asked with deep concern. "It's hard to say. For example, back then, when I first used it, because my body was essentially too weak, and this power was really too strong, that every month on the night of the full moon." Nangong Luoyun didn't finish speaking and Su Luo had already understood. Every month on the full moon, Nangong Luoyun's body would become weak, and both legs would hurt unbearably. Reportedly, only when she reached the level of Grandmaster Apothecary would she be able to cure his illness. So it turned out. It turned out to be the after effect from him using this power for the first time. Nangong Luoyun, as a prince of unsurpassed talent, in the end, what kind of desperate straits would compel him to use this power? Su Luo's eyes moved, but she didn't ask out loud. The scar that Nangong Luoyun hid in his heart. If he didn't want to say it, why should she go to uncover it? However, Nangong Luoyun seemed to be in the mood for conversation. He started to tell Su Luo the truth of the event on that day, which was buried in the dust of history. Nangong Luoyun had a faint grass fragrance on him that smelled good. But the story he told Su Luo made her heart clench tightly. In fact, the story was very simple. It boiled down to just a drama of the Imperial harem, striving for favor. At that time, Nangong Luoyun's mother was the emperor's most favored treasured concubine. That year, the emperor openly granted an edict, bestowing her with the title treasured concubine, showing how much he favored her. But it was also because of the emperor's affection that made the treasured concubine suffer the unhappy fate of beautiful woman being beheaded. Chapter 1280. What path to take? 1. At that time, Nangong Luoyun's mother was the emperor's favorite treasured concubine. That year, the emperor openly bestowed the word treasured to her. It could be seen how much he loved treasured concubine. However, it was also because of this love from the emperor that made treasured concubine suffer the unhappy fate of beautiful women that was beheaded. Treasured concubine was so favored at that time that she was in charge of the imperial harem. Her influence was without equal, for her Emperor Jing didn't even want any other palace concubines. So the two of them lived the peaceful life of a romantic couple. But a lifetime of being a pair, how could this be achieved in the royal family? At that time, treasured concubine became the thorn in the eyes and ears of the concubines in the harem and the ministers of the imperial court. Finally, they joined together and caused the death of treasure concubine. But unfortunately for them, this matter was seen by the underaged Nangong Luoyun. Nangong Luoyun saw with his own eyes his mother being dishonored and meeting with a violent death. Under the pressure of being about to crumble, he incited the strange power sealed in his body. Nangong Luoyun's powers instantly grew and exploded out, and he killed all the concubines and powerful families that participated in this plot. He also exterminated their entire family. His Highness, who was barely 5 years old, looked like an Azura from hell, vicious and ruthless. At that time, the entire imperial capital flowed with blood nonstop for 3 days. That time, Emperor Jing was completely stupefied. The entire capital was stupefied and was scared to the extreme by the very young Nangong Luoyun. 5 years old and you killed so many people? Su Luo gave him a thumbs up in approval. Much more awesome than me at that age. The 5-year-old Su Luo hadn't entered the assassin organization. At most, she was playing with ants under a tree. Nangong Luoyun's colored glass-like eyes shone with a deep cold light. He rubbed the hair on Su Luo's head. You don't feel this kind of person is very scary? 5 years old and exterminated the 3 powerful families of that time in the capital? Su Luo firmly shook her head. People don't offend me. I won't offend them. If people offend me, I'll return it 100-fold to them. Moreover, the you at that time who was controlled by such a strange power was also involuntary. It's no wonder that those people in the capital were so afraid of Nangong Luoyun. It's no wonder that Emperor Jing also didn't really dare offend Nangong Luoyun's bottom line. So it turned out that the root was here. The image of little Nangong showing off his power appeared in Su Luo's mind. She felt he was already formidable, but also gave her a faint sad feeling. He was only 5 years old, and was forced to become a homicidal maniac devil. It's no wonder his temperament afterwards would become more and more vicious and merciless. However, so what if it's like that? He was cruel and unscrupulous to everyone under the heavens, but as long as he was totally devoted to her, Su Luo, it was enough. Afterwards, how did you preserve your life? Su Luo, full of heartache, caressed Nangong Liuyun's sharp and clear silhouette. Her Nangong was so small at that time, and also killed so many people, and everyone took him as a little demon. How could they easily allow him to continue to live on? It may be assumed he must have experienced something that shocked one to the core. Seeing the heartache Su Luo accidentally revealed in her eyes for him, Nangong Luyun smiled happily. His long arm extended out, imprisoning his little girl in his embrace. He placed his chin on top of her head. Recalling this part of his suffering, he originally thought that he would bury this deeply for the rest of his life, never dredging it up to see the light of the day. Originally, he thought recalling this would make him want to die from the pain, but with this little guy at his side, Nangong Luyun felt that this segment of memories was like part of history that he turned over. This made him feel relaxed, as if being relieved from a heavy burden. He hugged Su Luo tightly and told her what happened afterwards. At that time, there really were many ministers that proposed, saying this child's heart schemes were very ruthless. After growing up, might not be fortunate for Western Jing. He must quickly be strangled in the cradle, to avoid provoking trouble that would destroy Western Jing. From left to right, people made it difficult for Emperor Jing. When he didn't know what to do, all of a sudden, a godlike figure dropped from the sky. Chapter 1281. What path to take to that person? Could it be Purgatory Cities? Master? Su Luo asked curiously. At that time, Master came to the capital to look for someone. But he didn't find that person, so finally he took me back. Nangong Liuyun's expression revealed a faint smile. Clearly, he was very close to his master. Su Luo thought about this little Nangong, when he was trapped in desperate straits, with his birth father looking on without lifting a finger. Only the master of Purgatory City landed from the sky, and saved him from being surrounded by enemies. Probably, in Nangong's view, this master's position was more important to him than his birth father. Su Luo recalled the tangled relationship between her mother and the master of Purgatory City. Suddenly, a light bulb went on in her mind. Your master went to the capital to find someone? Nangong Liuyun's nose sniffed the faint delicate fragrance from Su Luo's body. His eyes were soft with an intoxicating smile on his face. A pity master had searched for so many years and still hadn't found that person. Who was that elder looking for? Su Luo's heart had a faint guess. Nangong Luyun smiled even deeper. It ought to be the daughter goddess Yanhua left behind in this world. Su Luo nearly split out a mouthful of water. What did you say? The daughter goddess Yanhua left behind in this world. Nangong Luyun laughingly looked at Su Luo. His dark red thin lips hooked into a demonically charming smile. Then do you know who I am? Su Luo's slender white finger pointed at her own nose and asked in a deadpan manner. Who are you again? Nangong Luyun pretended not to know. Looking for a beating? You clearly know I'm the person your teacher is looking for. Su Luo slapped his shoulder. Nangong Luyun let out a candid laughter. His long and thin finger hooked Su Luo's nose. Luo girl, at that time, you let me have your opportunity to go to Purgatory City. For this lifetime, I will protect you well. Protect you forever and be loyal to you. Truth be told, if at that time Purgatory City's master found Su Luo naturally, he would not do more and take Nangong Luyun away. At that time, I was only 2 years old and didn't understand anything. A great pity. Such a great opportunity was snatched away by you for nothing. Otherwise, right now, I would be a super strong expert without rival. Su Luo pretended to be hopelessly depressed and wrinkled her nose. Seeing this little girl's nose wrinkled into a ball, Nangong Luyun suddenly felt it was funny. He pinched the little girl's nose. Foolish miss, do you know what my master said when he took me away? Then what did that elder say? Su Luo fiddled with the hair on Nangong Liuyun's shoulder, and casually asked a sentence. That elder? 3 black lines appeared on Nangong Liuyun's forehead. His master was 100% a beautiful male evildoer. But in this girl's mouth, actually became an elder. However, letting Luo girl think he was elderly was also good. Nangong Luoyun beamed with smiles as he raised an eyebrow. That elder, his elder said he didn't find a daughter but could personally groom a son-in-law. To nurture one himself would make him feel much more assured than finding one from outside. Nangong Luoyun provocatively and in a devilishly charming manner lifted up Su Luo's bright and tapered chin. So Luo girlo, are you satisfied with the son-in-law your father personally groomed? Immediately, Su Luo's face was full of black lines. Didn't expect that master of Purgatory City's way of thinking was so far-reaching. To actually take the measurement of a 2-year-old little brat at that time. And give her a made-to-order husband. Could his elder be my dad? Su Luo expressed her disbelief. I think that elder must have bestowed that title on himself, right? According to the old emperor of Western Ling's description at that time, her beyond beautiful and honorable mother, who attracted bees like honey, didn't even seem to see the Purgatory City's master as a potential match. Chapter 1282. What path to take 3. Whether he is your dad or not, this question, you ought to ask your mother. Nangong Luoyun let out a cough. Su Luo suddenly was somewhat nervous and struggled free from his embrace. With deep concern over her face, she asked, "What's wrong? Did your internal injuries flare up again?" Nangong Luoyun once again coughed several times, unable to suppress it. At an angle Su Luo could not see. Specks of blood went into his sleeves. No problem, the injury is not serious. Nangong Luoyun's expression was the same, with the same smile that was dazzling as the cherry blossoms in March. Able to endure such a berserk palm strike from that old madman. How can it not be serious? Do you take me for a fool? Su Luo unhappily glared at him. Quickly let me have a look at the condition of the injury. Without demur, Su Luo directly peeled off Nangong Luoyun's clothes. On the pure white as jade chest, a pitch black as ink palm print was clearly displayed. It was a shockingly horrible sight to see. Su Luo lightly touched the palm print. Although Nangong Luoyun still continued to smile, a thin layer of sweat was on his forehead. Still saying there's no problem. Su Luo really wanted to fiercely pinch him, but also hated for him to feel pain, so had no choice but to drop it. Su Luo glared at him in displeasure. Do we need to stay here to heal your injury? Nangong Luoyun rubbed her hair and scanned the surroundings once through. He shook his head while smiling. This is not the place for healing. We need to find a safe place. I'm afraid not long from now, that old madman will chase over. A safe place? Su Luo slanted her head and thought. The so-called most dangerous place was the safest place. But where was this most dangerous place? For certain we can't go to Central Palace. If they go back, it would be strange if that old madman didn't discover them. Then temporarily, we'll go to the Imperial Palace. Nangong Luoyun was all smiles, his tone extremely careless. Northern Mo's Imperial Palace? Su Luo stroked her chain and carefully considered for a while. Then, she felt that this idea was really clever. Okay, let's go to Northern Mo's Imperial Palace. However, there is still a day and night's travel distance from here to Northern Mo's Imperial Palace. Within this period of time, it might not be too peaceful. Nangong Luoyun looked off to the distance. His gaze seemed deep and far away. In the depth of the night, they shone brightly like stars. Let's go now. Su Luo pulled Nangong Luoyun up. After resting just now, Su Luo's mental strength had returned to full strength. So she could use teleport once again. Considering old man Mo that madman could catch up at any time, Su Luo did not delay. She pulled Nangong Luoyun up and quickly disappeared in place. Fortunately, after going through the 9 different palace halls, Su Luo understood the true essence of teleport. Otherwise, she would not have been able to do those things at Central Palace. Moreover, she wouldn't have been able to run using this route. That evening, the night was very dark. The two people unconsciously had already run several hundred kilometers and entered a border town called Luoyang City. Luoyang City was located at the center of Northern Mo and Central Palace. Many people who cultivated lived here. The people were usually intrepid, without military presence, The probability for committing crimes of robbery and murder were very high. Before Su Luo's mental strength became empty, they arrived at an inn in Luoyang City. Su Luo and Nangong Luyan swaggered in and ordered a room. They went into a room labeled with the word sky. In any case, the old madman chasing them definitely wouldn't use hidden forces. There was no difference to entering openly and aboveboard versus sneaking in. That night Su Luo and Nangong Luyan sat down cross-legged separately. Nangong Luyan rotated his powers to heal, whereas Su Luo was single-mindedly studying the true essence of teleport. Su Luo had asked Nangong Luyan the matter of wind element laws. Nangong Luyan, from easy to hard, completely explained it once through to her. Although Su Luo hadn't understood everything, however, with her photographic memory, she retained everything in her mind to slowly ponder over to understand it. Chapter 1283, What Path to Take for Wind Strength Speed. Teleport. The spirit able to travel 500 kilometers. These words appeared nonstop in Su Luo's mind, and she muttered these words continuously. How to fuse this? Where was the starting point? The night became increasingly darker. The cold air outside was even heavier. Suddenly, a light went on in Su Luo's head. If speed was to soar to the fastest point, then there would be wind afterimages. What if it was even faster than that? So fast that there weren't even afterimages? Just when Su Luo was about to grasp the critical point, suddenly, a layer of shadow enveloped Su Luo's heart. Nangong Luyan, who was just in the midst of healing, abruptly opened his eyes. His pair of eyes were bright and clear like snow swords, filled entirely with speckles of cold light. Old madman has chased over. Nangong Luyan calmly said. Wasn't he seriously injured? How could he chased over so quickly? Su Luo suddenly stood up, a threat of anxiety on her face. Nangong Luyan helplessly looked at Su Luo. He drank your blood. It would be strange if his injuries didn't quickly heal. Having heard what was said, Su Luo's face immediately collapsed. She frowned, depressed. So it could be said, the reason why his injuries would heal so quickly is all because my blood saved him? This conclusion really made one collapse. Nangong Luyan nodded his head. The matter is just so. Su Luo gloomily wanted to run into a wall. So, it could be said this old madman's future injuries will also heal this quickly? Yes. Nangong Luyan rubbed Su Luo's head. This time, the psychological blow that struck his little girl wasn't light. In fact, not only was the psychological blow to Su Luo not light, she wished she could smash her own head with a fist. She could let having her blood sucked out go. But after old madman drank her blood, his body actually became stronger, and able to restore its strength. Then, in the future, who could kill him? Then you also drink some. Su Luo rolled up her sleeve, revealing a snow-white clear wrist. Foolish girl. Nangong Luyan pulled her hand to a stop, and unrolled the sleeves she just rolled up. He smiled and said, My injury is not the same as the old madman's. You shouldn't waste your heartfelt thought on this. Su Luo insisted, but Nangong Luyan also was persistent in refusing. In the end, it was still Nangong Luyan who patted her head. Let's not talk about this first. If we don't go now, wait for later, then old man Mo would have chased over. Then let's first leave, then talk. Su Luo pulled Nangong Luyan, and was about to teleport, but this time, Nangong Luyan stopped her. One could only see his pretty sword-like brows crease, as he slowly said, Old man Mo can find us time after time. I suspect this may be connected to the fluctuations in space when you teleport. It can't be right. Su Luo opened her eyes wide and looked at him with disbelief. It turned out that not only did she give old man Mo an indestructible body, she even left a little tail for old man Mo to chase after them to kill them. This is only a guess, so this time we won't teleport. We'll take a horse carriage. Nangong Luyan made the prompt decision. Okay. Su Luo nodded at once. Consequently, the two of them jumped out the window and found an empty place. Su Luo released the dragon-scaled horse from her space. At that time, when they went to the 9 different palace halls of Xian's Wood residence, Su Luo and Nangong Luyan rode in the carriage pulled by this dragon-scaled horse. Afterwards, It was not convenient to let the dragon-scaled horse follow them into the Xianzwood residence, so Su Luo placed the dragon-scaled horse in her space. Nangong Luyan also had a storage ring, however he was not a space mage, so his storage ring could not hold living things, resulting in the dragon-scaled horse being raised in Su Luo's space up until now. This period of time, the dragon-scaled horse had continuously lived in Su Luo's space. Suddenly being brought out, it was still not too used to being outside. Looking at the dragon-scaled horse with bright fur in front of her, Su Luo was slightly startled. Why was it that she felt that this dragon-scaled horse was somewhat different compared to before? Chapter 1284. What path to take 5. That space of yours is not bad. The dragon-scaled horse actually was promoted 2 ranks in succession. Nangong Luyan smilingly shook his head, then he stroked the dragon-scale horse's head. Su Luo finally remembered, while it was in her space, the dragon-scaled horse, very much lacking integrity, fawned over the little divine dragon. Finally, the little divine dragon, also lacking integrity, supplied the dragon-scaled horse with an endless amount of celestial spirit water to drink. Originally, just taking out a small bottle of celestial spirit water would cause a sensation, but the little divine dragon magnanimously and boldly gave an unlimited supply to the dragon-scaled horse. It would be strange if the dragon-scaled horse had not advanced. However, to advance 2 ranks in succession was also because it had good talent. After the dragon-scaled horse appeared, it rubbed intimately against Su Luo, tossing its original owner to the back of its head. Nangong Luyan flicked its head in annoyance. How did this king raise such an easily deceived thing? Who told me to have good food and good things to play here? Su Luo tenderly strokes the dragon-scaled horse's head. The dragon-scaled horse nodded its head in a deadly serious manner, expressing that what Su Luo said was true. Nangong Luyan was angered to the point of laughing. It's getting late, let us set off quickly without delay. Nangong Luyan pulled Su Luo and turned to enter the horse carriage. After the two had sat steadily, the dragon-scaled horse gave a faint whinny, then opened its hoofs to dash forward. In the quiet night, the sound of horse hooves were especially loud and clear. The dragon-scaled horse's speed seems to be a lot faster. Su Lu lifted up the carriage curtain, looking at the structures that were constantly going by, saying in surprise, "Yes, it is faster by 3-fold compared to before." Nangong Liuyun's head leaned against the carriage wall, closing his eyes to rest. Such quick speed, this dragon-scaled horse advanced just in time. Su Luo praised a sentence. However, that unease in her heart became stronger and stronger. When the dragon-scaled horse traveled to the South City Gate, suddenly the entire Luoyang city seemed to be enveloped by a formidable attack, like they were ants in a ball, unable to control their own lives. Under this huge pressure, inside this entire Luoyang city, the people that were fast asleep woke up one after another, at a loss, not knowing what's going on. Not good, old madman has chased over. Su Luo cried out in alarm and stood up. Nangong Liuyun's sharp eyebrows knitted slightly, pulling Su Luo to sit down. Then he slowly shook his head. Sit tight. Afterwards, he gave a soft whistle. After the dragon-scaled horse heard the whistle, its pace suddenly soared. Quickly, the only thing that was left on the street were gray afterimages. When one opened their eyes again, they were no longer able to capture the dragon-scale horse's silhouette. Very quickly, the dragon-scaled horse had arrived at the South City Gate. However, the city gate was locked up tightly, and the dragon-scaled horse simply couldn't go through. A row of soldiers stood in the tower of the city gate. The captain of these soldiers saw the carriage rushing towards the gate and shouted loudly, "Who has come?" Inside the dragon-scaled horse carriage, there was no sound. The captain of the soldiers' voice had a trace of cold harshness. "The city gate is already closed. No one is allowed to go out of the city." It was only because he saw the dragon-scaled horse and the carriage, which was not ordinary, that his tone carried a trace of respect. If it was someone else, they would already have been shot dead with arrows. Just at this moment the old madman floated in midair, roaring non-stop. "Loathsome girl, come out!" This roar was like thousands of knives and thunder combined. Then, it exploded with a loud rumble. This thunderous sound rang loudly between heaven and earth. The pitiful Luoyang city, just like this, met with an absurd calamity. Suddenly, the entire Luoyang city seemed to have encountered the rare earthquake that came every 1,000 years. The entire Luoyang city shook and the buildings swayed, then broke into fine powder. A countless number of people sleeping in their rooms were directly buried alive by the collapsed buildings. Chapter 1285. What path to take? 6. Many of the more nimble people rushed out of their rooms and ran into the street. Momentarily, the entire Luoyang city shook like a sheet. Luoyang city was also known as a city of crime. Everyone here had all violated laws somewhere else, and afterwards fled here to avoid people chasing to kill them. Able to live in Luoyang city, there were very few that didn't flout the law. But at the same time, able to flee to this city of crime, it could be said their strength also wasn't bad. Therefore, when Old Madman's roar was about to make the entire Luoyang city collapse, a lot of people still were able to run out. Loathsome girl, come out, come out. The old madman floated there in midair, looking all around, as if trying to find Su Luo's figure to admonish her. Su Luo inwardly complained in her heart. She lowered her voice and said to Nangong Luyin, "We won't be discovered by the old madman, right?" Nangong Luyin shook his head. "Taking advantage of the chaos right now, we must run out without delay." Nangong Liuyun's long slender finger with pronounced joints lifted up the carriage curtain. Looking at the towering city gate before him, he frowned slightly, because the old madman had entered from the north gate. So the north gate was affected the most by the attack. Nearly more than half of the city had collapsed into ruins. Therefore now, a countless number of people were all running toward this south gate. However, the soldiers guarding on the city wall, no matter what, wouldn't agree to opening the city gates. Retreat backwards, join together to meet the enemy. Who dares to flee? An arrow awaits them. The captain of the soldiers raised his right hand. Behind him was a squadron of archers ready to fire. Each and every one of them had their bows pulled back with an arrow inserted, taking the posture of preparing to shoot. At this time, if Su Luo and Nangong Luyin stepped out to retrieve the dragon scale horse, then jump on top of the city gate and fly out of the south gate, this tentative plan could be executed successfully, although it was a bit more time-consuming and took a great deal of effort. However, with so many people around, with the dragon-scaled horse received back into space, wouldn't this target be too big? Nangong Luyin frowned just because of this. Su Luo smiled and said, "Look carefully now, I'll perform a magic trick for you to see." One could only see Su Luo wave her hand, and nothingness of space enveloped the dragon-scaled horse. She gave a low grunt. "Quickly rush out." Up ahead was a very thick wall. With such a fast rushing speed, if they didn't die, it would still end with them being badly bruised. As a result, when the surrounding people saw this horse with strange dragon scales rushing forward with flying speed, each and every one of them had a shocked expression. Was this horse scared till it went crazy? It ought to be, otherwise why would it rush heedlessly forward? Over there is the city walla. In fact, it became crazy from being scared. However, that's not bad if it can ram a small hole. We can also take this opportunity to run out. During the time when numerous people were discussing this, the corner of Su Luo's mouth hooked into a slight smile. With nothingness of space enveloping them, how could the dragon-scaled horse have an accident? At that time in the demon cave, she and Beichening were both locked inside, unable to get out. It was because she understood nothingness of space at that time. Did the two of them then find an opportunity to come out? Now, along with Su Luo's cultivation being promoted, nothingness of space had also gradually enlarged. Now she could already protect the entire horse carriage. The dragon-scaled horse rushed forward with flying speed, its speed soaring to the peak. The pitiful dragon-scaled horse didn't know that Su Luo's nothingness of space would be so easy to use. Its striving so hard was all because of its respect and trust in its master and master's lady. Wow, this horse has gone crazy. It really is about to ram into the wall. Oh heavens, who can stop this horse? Some people screamed loudly, and there were also people who looked on gloomily. Chapter 1286. What path to take? 7. Because after the dragon-scaled horse died, This horse carriage would be very useful to everyone. Just when some people were crying out in alarm, while some rejoiced in others' misfortune, the dragon-scaled horse's head smashed into the wall. Everyone was taken aback when not only didn't the dragon-scaled horse smash the wall until its head broke with blood flowing, instead, seemingly out of nowhere, it disappeared in place. Oh heavens, what just happened? Where is that horse? How is it that it disappeared? A lot of people rubbed their eyes in disbelief. It seems it had passed through to the other side. Impossible. You think this wall is made from paper paste? How could it pass through? While everyone was discussing this, the soldiers on the wall were also dumbstruck. However, they stood on top of the city gate. Naturally, they had a panoramic view of the scene on both sides. Wow. What is that? Soldier A saw a black dot that wasn't far away, and his eyes were opened very wide. It seems like that horse carriage with the strange design from just now. Soldier B cried out in fear. In the end, what's going on? Soldier C asked incredulously. Everyone was all speechless. What happened? Only ghosts knew what really happened. They didn't open the city gate, and the city wall wasn't broken, nor did they see them drill underground or fly. However, they actually directly passed through the wall, then ran far away. This must be the strangest damn thing under the heavens. Moreover, it happened in front of everyone's eyes. Just when everyone was confused, disaster continuously broke out non-stop. Old Madman was worthy of being Old Madman. After his bad temper started, he was completely unconcerned with anything. He disposed of everything without any qualms. This city of criminals was already a malignant tumor to the local government. The sovereign of Northern Mo wished he could pull out this malignant tumor by the root. But because nobody living in this city was an ordinary person, therefore, not only did he fail again and again, he even sacrificed a lot of soldiers because of this city. Until later, when Northern Mo's sovereign really had no alternative, he finally handed Luoyang City over to these criminals. Also because of this, the entire Northern Mo would constantly suffer trouble from this city of criminals, troubling and vexing the master of Northern Mo endlessly. If the master of Northern Mo was to know what Su Luo did today, very likely he would award her Best Fresh Talent Award. After Su Luo escaped, the entire Luoyang city sank into an abyss of suffering. Elder Ancestor Mo, this old madman, he couldn't find Su Luo, and therefore was overflowing with anger. The entire Luoyang city was destroyed by him until nothing was left. The disaster gradually extended from the north gate, and finally to the south gate. Wherever the old madman went, everything behind him was an area of ruins. Anyone seeing it would be shocked. Under the south gate, those people's feeling of nervousness suddenly increased. Quickly open the city gate. Open the city gate, otherwise, we'll set fire to the city. If you don't open the city gate, your daddy, I, will kill every one of you in the next minute. Under the city gate, one after another, angry voices yelled, converging together into a mess, the drone of these voices echoing. There were even smart people who recalled that strange horse that rushed out the city gate just now, and thought maybe that wall had a mechanism that opened a hidden door. Therefore, they also rushed forward with flying speed. But a pity, they directly smashed into the wall until they were badly bruised and bloody. There were those who were even more seriously hurt, directly passing out from the hit. Fuck. It's a scam. This city wall simply doesn't have a mechanism to a hidden door. Then how did that horse just go through? Only ghosts would know. Maybe they are ghosts that can really punch a hole and go through walls, okay? They couldn't find a reason to explain it, so they pushed the reason onto the bodies of demons and ghosts. Chapter 1287. What path to take? 8. The soldiers guarding the north gate of the city felt an approaching disaster, and a cowardly feeling couldn't help but rise in their hearts. Moreover, the people gathered under the city gates continuously bellowed out protests. There were even courageous ones who climbed up the city gates time and time again. Although they were being shot down incessantly by arrows, as the number of people grew more numerous, the city gates were bound to break from the pressure. In the end, they were unable to withstand the pressure, and could only open the city gates. However, for the gates to open at this time, it was already too late. This was because the old madman who had blown his top had already killed his way here. The old madman's whole body gave off an intense, formidable pressure, the heavy stench of blood and a scathing killing intent. At this time, the more the old madman killed, the braver he got. As if he felt this venting game was very fun and extremely satisfying. The old madman appeared on top of the city wall. The moment he appeared, however, made the crowd of people cry out in alarm. Oh heavens! Why is it him? How could it be? How is this possible? Amidst the crowd, a person cried out loudly in surprise, continuously shouting that it was impossible. Who is that? Could it be that you recognize him? Hurry up and say who he is. The person who just shouted was immediately encircled by the crowd, who threatened him loudly. He is the elder ancestor of Central Palace. A saint rank expert. What? The elder ancestor of Central Palace? What enmity does Central Palace have with this city of crime? Why does he want to wipe out the entire city? Maybe he accepted a commission from the Imperial family? Otherwise, how could they let elder ancestor to personally come and take action? That foul Northern MO. That hateful Central Palace. Defeat Northern MO. Defeat Central Palace. For a moment, the scene became extremely chaotic, with countless voices roaring loudly. The old madman's eyes were full of blood. They were like searchlights sweeping back and forth, scanning the crowd. However, very quickly he was disappointed, because the aura he was looking for wasn't in the crowd. Ever since he drank that girl's blood, it was as if the old madman had become an addict. If he didn't drink her blood, then he would feel itchy all over his body. It was so unbearable that he almost collapsed. So even though the old madman was injured, he still wouldn't give up on chasing after them closely. However, just earlier, there were still traces of the loathsome girl's aura. Yet now, not even a little bit remained. Strange. Just at this moment, a brick was thrown from the crowd, smashing towards the back of the city wall. Moreover, the target was this elder ancestor MO. I'll smash you dead, you lunatic. This daddy's entire family was killed by you. This daddy has unfinished business with you. However, this person didn't know that his moment of angry action would actually bring a drowning calamity upon everyone present. Elder Ancestor MO waved a hand, and that brick quickly changed directions, heading back to where it had come from. Moreover, that action by the old madman only looked like a casual wave of the hand, but it actually carried an endlessly formidable pressure and killing intent. With a mere wave from the old madman, those people were like tarot cards, falling down one by one. Additionally, blood flowed out from the 7 apertures of everyone's face, and they died with their eyes open. At this time, the old madman's strength had become a step stronger than before. If Su Luo knew it was just because of her blood that let the old madman grow even more powerful day by day, very likely, she might wring her hands until she coughed up blood. A pity Su Luo didn't know that because they had stayed for a night in the city of criminals, the entire city would then completely disappear in the long river of history. At this moment, the two of them were riding in the dragon-scaled horse carriage which had increased its speed to the peak, and was speeding towards the northern MO Imperial Palace. What awaited them was another legendary tale of countless perils. Maybe it was because Nangong Luyan guessed correctly and Su Luo didn't use teleportation, so all along this journey, the old madman still hadn't caught up. However, in order to prepare for all eventualities, the two of them still made up their minds to hide for a short period of time in the northern MO Imperial Palace. They would wait for Nangong Luyan to recover from his injuries before considering their next move. Chapter 1288. Northern MO Imperial Palace. 1. On the entire journey, Su Luo and Nangong Luyan actually didn't find a trace of the old madman. The two of them safely arrived at the northern MO Imperial capital. Before they entered the city, Su Luo and Nangong Luyan got off the dragon-scaled horse and directly put it in her space. After all, this dragon-scaled horse was truly too famous in the city of criminals. No one knew, in the end, how many people would run out from the city of criminals, whether someone would recognize the dragon-scaled horse. In order to be prepared for all eventualities, the two people made full preparations outside the city. Let's go. Nangong Liuyun's eyes contained intoxicatingly soft waves. He led Su Luo and went towards the tightly guarded north city gates. Su Luo half supported him and asked with deep concern, "How are your injuries?" Using the faint light of dawn, Su Luo carefully observed Nangong Liuyun's complexion. After going through 1 day and 1 night of recuperation and smoothing his breathing, his complexion looked somewhat better than before. It was no longer scarily pale. "Relax, I'm in the midst of recovering step by step." Nangong Liuyun's lips hooked up, and he laughed. Seeing this little appearance of his Luo girl's deeply worried expression, his mood became very good. At that time in the 9 different palace halls, Su Luo had used more than half of her blood to cover Nangong Liuyun's body in a moment of desperation. It caused his body to change completely, therefore, his recovery speed was really fast, not inferior in any aspect when compared to that old madman. The 2 people arrived on foot to the city gates, and saw a long dragon-like line of people queuing there, and Su Luo frowned slightly. This was the northern Imperial capital. The security at the city gates was extremely tight. A diplomatic note was required for entry and exit. People without a diplomatic note would be arrested on the spot. Back then, Su Luo and Nangong Luyun didn't actually come through the imperial capital. Instead, they had gone across from the edges of the dark forest and directly entered the snowfield plateau. Should we wait till dark before going in? Su Luo watched the stream of people as each of them was inspected, and her eyes half narrowed. Nangong Liuyun's thin lips hooked into a smile carrying a hint of mysteriousness. "Silly girl, this king brought you here, so how could this king let you wait? Waiting, that's other people's matter. Your Highness Prince Jing, such big tone. However, this isn't the Eastern Ling. Moreover, as far as I know, Northern Mo and Eastern Ling have always had a bad relationship. There were often times of friction at the border. Who knows when a war will start up?" Su Luo smilingly hooked her arm into his. She raised her little face, her pitch-black eyes blinked, dazzling like the stars in the night sky. "Just follow me." Nangong Luyun led Su Luo along, strutting towards the city gates. This walk of theirs immediately gave rise to spirited discussions. "Hey, you guys, line up. You can't cut the line here. Maybe they have privileges, ah." "Privileges, my ass. Even if they're a third-ranked high official, they still have to line up obediently, understand? This is our Northern Mo's rule." "That feeble-minded pair, they must be from another place, right? Strutting like that, wanting to walk the privileged route. They'll definitely be arrested and thrown in jail." "What a pity, ah. You guys look, the man is incomparably handsome, while the woman is a beauty that doesn't exist under the heavens. Oh, a pity, ah, a pity." These spirited discussion naturally reached Su Luo's ears. Su Luo took a look at Nangong Luyun. Nangong Luyun looked ahead, with the corners of his lips hooking into a demonically enchanting smile. Su Luo found it even more difficult to understand. The 2 of them were fleeing, right? This was wanting to enter the imperial palace and hide, right? If so, shouldn't the 2 of them be keeping a low profile? With Nangong Luyun being so high profile like this, was it truly okay? However, seeing Nangong Liuyun's appearance of having a hidden card up his sleeve, it was hard for Su Luo to say something. Before long, Nangong Luyun had led Su Luo along and came directly to a stop before the city gates. Chapter 1289, Northern Mo Imperial Palace 2. No one is allowed to cut the line. You guys hurry, go back to line up. The guard soldiers saw an immortal couple standing before them, and their initially impatient expressions vanished in a flash. Their expressions and tones also became a lot more courteous. However, Nangong Luyun and Su Luo stood where they were, absolutely having no intention to leave. You guys quickly go back. Otherwise, if our captain finds out, you'll be arrested. This soldier had good eyes. He knew that these 2 people shouldn't be provoked, so he urged them in a nice tone and manner instead. Talk about Chow Chow and Chow Chow will appear 1. Right at this moment, the captain, whom Soldier A had spoken of, arrived. This captain's pair of eyes cast a sidelong glance at Nangong Luyun. When he saw Su Luo, his eyes clearly lit up. Nangong Liuyun's eyes rose slightly, a hint of chilliness flashing across his eyes. Without waiting for this captain to speak, Nangong Luyun immediately took out a black wooden tablet from his bosom and smashed it straight towards this captain's head. Ouch! Who hit me? The captain held up his forehead, which actually had a hole smashed in. Moreover, he was directly sent kneeling to the ground from being smashed. He was kneeling in front of Nangong Luoyan and Su Luo. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! The captain scowled miserably and shouted loudly without a care for anything else. In the wake of the captain's order, an entire group of people charged over, aggressively encircling Nangong Luoyan and Su Luo. Suddenly, the mood at the scene was of mutual hostility, with swords drawn and bows bent. The corners of Su Luo's mouth hooked up slightly and looked at that captain in an unhurried manner. "You're certain it's an enemy attack? You don't need to take a look at that tablet?" Things that Nangong Luoyan took out, how could it possibly not be of any use? Su Luo guessed that that must be some sort of honorary token with special privileges. That captain got so angry that his eyes became bloodshot. Spitting with rage, he yelled, "Someone come, arrest these two spies. Seize them all for this, daddy." However, before the kingly aura Nangong Luoyan was emitting from head to toe, these third and fourth rank soldiers were inwardly cowardly. They simply didn't even dare to take a single step forward. Just at this moment, that soldier A stooped down and picked up that tablet from the ground. With just one glance, this soldier's entire body actually stiffened. He stood stiffly as if his acupuncture points had been hit. "You give this daddy to rush over." The captain saw this soldier A standing there dim-wittedly in place, and immediately, the captain got extremely angry and kicked Soldier A with his foot. Soldier A's body moved back and spun around, unconsciously dodging this ferocious kick. "You dare to dodge this daddy's kick." The captain immediately flew into a rage out of humiliation and shouted loudly, wanting to charge over. However, Soldier A's whole body was now trembling. He looked at the captain with sympathy and pity. Then, as he handed over the command tablet to the captain, he said faintly, "Captain, you had better take a good look at this command tablet." Soldier A hastily handed over the command tablet, like he was throwing over a hot potato. Immediately after, his entire person relaxed. Originally, the captain didn't want to look. However, seeing Soldier A being so serious about this matter, a hint of suspiciousness flashed across the captain's eyes. Hence, he leisurely accepted the command tablet and set his eyes on it. This one look made him go, "Oh my God." One could only see this captain look like an exhaust fan. The muscles on his face trembled incessantly. His pair of eyes flashed with expressions of terror and fear. He stared incredulously at Nangong Luoyan and said with a shaking voice, "Purgatory City." Nangong Luoyan looked like a noble god sitting high up in the clouds, arrogantly looking down and casting him a smiling glance that wasn't a smile. This captain's entire person immediately didn't feel too well. He didn't even think and directly made a bang sound, kneeling straight down on the ground. 1. Talk about chow chow and chow chow will appear. Chinese proverb for speaking of the devil he appears. Chapter 1290, Northern Mo Imperial Palace 3. That crisp kneeling sound, Su Luo upon hearing it felt leg pain on his behalf. In fact, blood was continuously rushing out from this captain's forehead. It had dyed more than half of his face red, but he didn't even have the courage to wipe off that blood. He trembled from head to toe as if he was about to faint at any time. This venerable lord, just now it was this person being negligent. You as a venerable lord, are magnanimous. Please consider this person as a fart and let me go. I beg you to spare my life. Estimated that this captain wouldn't die from excessive bleeding, rather, he would be scared to death. Su Luo pondered, holding her chin. Amusedly looked at Nangong Luoyan. So it turned out what he took out was the Purgatory City's waste tablet. However, his waste tablet ought to be of a high position in Purgatory City. Look how it scared this captain. If Nangong Luoyan didn't say he forgave him soon, he might get a heart disease from being scared. At the same time, Su Luo also understood, Purgatory City, these two words in people's eyes, were how powerful, overbearing and terrifying. The corner of Nangong Luoyan's lips curved up slightly, he coldly snorted once. What? Now you still block the road. Don't want me pass, right? No. The captain, having heard this, had an overjoyed expression. and quickly waved his hand magnanimously. Hurry up and open the city gate. Everyone take 3 steps back, and let this honored sir pass. Finished speaking, the captain bent and scraped to curry favor as he smiled flatteringly at Nangong Luyin. Venerable honored sir, please come in. Although the captain's face accompanied his words with a smile, but this captain was crying madly in his heart. He couldn't wait to send off this venerable honored sir without delay. If he stayed here, he was like a time bomb. Rumor was that people that came out of Purgatory City always had bad temperament, killing people as if cutting grass was the most common thing. Moreover, even if they killed people, the 4 countries in this mainland wouldn't dare to accuse Purgatory City's people with criminal charges, because behind their back was one of strongest experts on the mainland. The extremely biased liked to protect his own, the venerable Purgatory City's master. Nangong Luyin led Su Luo along by her hand and arrogantly walked inside. Behind their backs, they left behind a spirited discussion. That pair of immortal-like beings actually got in. The captain that normally strutted around in front of us, just now, he even kneeled to them. Not only did he kneel, but this captain was scared to the point of almost peeing in his pants. That captain isn't an ordinary person. He is His Majesty's wife's younger brother. Oh heavens, even the king's brother-in-law kneeled down to them. What are their identities? All of a sudden, the sound of discussion in the surroundings sparked up one after another, continuously without pause. Nangong Luyin led Su Luo and walked grandiosely into the imperial capital. I thought you would take out your Royal Highness Prince Jing of Eastern Ling identity. Didn't expect you'll use Purgatory City's strength. Su Luo recalled that captain's before and after actions that looked like a different person, and she shook in amusement. Purgatory City is a transcendent existence in the mainland. Just as long as one has this command tablet, as a disciple of Purgatory City, can enjoy all privileges. Nangong Luyin stuffed this command tablet into Su Luo's hands. Put it away well, it may be useful in the future. The reason why you arrogantly entered with such a high profile was just to demonstrate how to use this command tablet. Su Luo was very smart. With a slight thought, she understood Nangong Luyin's care. Nangong Luyin returned a smile to her, flicking Su Luo's forehead. Too smart is not cute. Cute my ass. Su Luo glared at him in annoyance. Am I an idiot? That needs you to demonstrate how to use it? Chapter 1291. Northern Mo Imperial Palace 4. Nangong Luyin held back his smile. But this girl doesn't believe the position of Purgatory City from the bottom of your heart, am I right? Maybe this girl had a bit of reverence for Purgatory City in the beginning, but after he told her about Purgatory City's master's matter, that mysterious veil of Purgatory City was taken off in front of her. She felt that since the master of Purgatory City couldn't even catch up to her mother, then this master of Purgatory City was merely just SOSO. But in fact, for Purgatory City to sit steadily as the strongest for so many years was not without reason. In fact, it was said that there were 10 great powers in the mainland, but in fact, adding the rest of the 9 powers combined was still inferior to Purgatory City's strength. Every influential family were itching to send their younger generation into Purgatory City. When Nangong Luyin explained this matter to Su Luo was rightfully astonished. The other 9 powers added together is not as powerful as Purgatory City? Su Luo suddenly widened her eyes from shock. Nangong Luyin pinched Su Luo's powered little cheeks and raised an eyebrow proudly. So to say your background is more powerful than anyone on this mainland. Because the number 1 expert on the mainland, Purgatory City's master, was her firmest backing. The mainland's number 1 apothecary, Grandmaster Rong Yun, was also her firmest backer. But right now we're still fleeing. Su Luo helplessly spread open her hands. We don't even have a safe resting place right now. Mountain people naturally have their own brilliant plans. Nangong Luyin snapped his finger. Let's quickly go. Without walking for too long, Su Luo's eyes flashed slightly, and she lowered her voice to discuss with Nangong Luyin. It seems we are being followed. Nangong Luyin naturally smiled. These flies are really troublesome. His fingers tapped the air, and a wind blade suddenly split into smaller pieces, splitting up to shoot in all directions. Suddenly on the roof, behind a tree in the street corner, and among the crowd, the originally hiding mysterious people, one after another, fell down, limbs twitching, foaming at the mouth, looking battered and exhausted. Let's go. Nangong Luoyun led Su Luo by the hand, arrogantly walking past these people with a leisurely pace. Cool. Su Luo leaned close to Nangong Luoyun's cheek, and fiercely gave him a kiss. Nangong Luoyun immediately was happy and smiled like an idiot, lowering his head to ask Su Luo, "Do you still want to play? We are fleeing for our lives right now, ah. Aren't you afraid that fire would come from our playing? Still better to quickly go." Su Luo wrapped herself around Nangong Luoyun's arm. The two walked up ahead and quickly disappeared in the night. Those people twitched in place, but after 2 hours, all the symptoms stopped, and they returned to normal. "Leader, should we continue to chase after them?" "Chase be damned." This leader directly slapped the head of that foolish guy. "This huge character clearly didn't put us in his eyes. If you want to seek death yourself, then go. But don't pull me in." But His Highness Crown Prince's sighed. His Highness the Crown Prince also said, "Do our best, but absolutely must not provoke Purgatory City's people." The leader said with lingering fear. Fortunately, this huge character had mercy, and didn't end all of us in one pot. If we still aren't discreet, it's like looking for the path to our own doom. As a result, this leader quickly led the group back. Nangong Luoyun and Su Luo had already walked far away from this place. Nangong Luoyun and Su Luo sat down in a restaurant, ordered a huge table of good food and wine, ready to eat a good meal. However, no one expected that just at this time, Old Madman actually chased over. Chapter 1292, Clear Spirit Pool 1. Feeling that alarming roar, the piece of chicken meat on Su Luo's chopsticks, with a pop sound, landed on the table. That crazy old man, his speed is really fast. Can't he even let people eat a full meal? Su Luo was so depressed that she almost scratched the wall. This journey of fleeing, she hadn't eaten a single full meal, okay? Nangong Luoyun's eyes narrowed slightly. That old madman's speed was no joke, but how could he chase up to them so quickly? Could it be that inside this, there was still a hidden trick? Let's leave first. Nangong Luoyun pulled Su Luo along, tossed down the chopsticks, turned and was about to quickly walk away. "Hey customers, you guys still haven't paid for the meal." The shopkeeper saw the two that looked like immortals would actually leave without paying, and he immediately ran out. However, before he could run near them, a silver ingot smashed into the shopkeeper's chest, directly smashing this shopkeeper to fall on the ground. Ouch! The shopkeeper's chest was smashed very painfully. Originally, he wanted to complain, but after seeing the white sparkling silver ingot in his bosom, immediately he was all smiles. Wherefore would Su Luo and Nangong Luoyun have time to pay any heed to him? The two people's speed soared to the max, from one roof to another, flashing by rapidly, leaving only afterimages behind. Because their speed soared to the extreme, just like a gust of wind that rolled over, as a result, it didn't arouse the attention of passerbys. Up ahead, the Imperial City was already in front of their eyes. Right now was broad daylight. All 4 of the Imperial City gates were guarded by Yulin soldiers. The security was so tight that even a fly couldn't enter. However, these Yulin soldiers were middle level, at most, only 4th or 5th rank. Moreover, Su Luo and Nangong Luoyun's state were much higher than theirs, so even when the two of them quickly flashed into the Imperial Palace, no one noticed anything. However, the Imperial Palace, after all, was the site of the center of imperial power, so it was impossible not to have strong experts. So, Nangong Luoyun brought Su Luo to remote areas. The two were strong, and also had sharp senses. Usually they already hid before a guard squadron arrived. Therefore, along the way, they were not hindered and no one discovered them in the Imperial Palace. "You seem to be quite familiar with this Imperial Palace?" Su Luo, seeing that Nangong Luoyun didn't look at a map, but after many complicated turns, he didn't look lost either. "There is a construction map, Eastern Ling's book collection pavilion has it." Nangong Luoyun showed a smile to Su Luo. His smile was like a blooming red spider lily, demonically charming, and tempting people to commit a crime. Su Luo nodded her head in understanding. Having read an excessive amount of books, and being so erudite at a critical moment, it actually came in handy. Come, let's first go to the Clear Spirit Pool. Clear Spirit Pool? Su Luo slanted her head, looking in puzzlement at Nangong Luyan, who was half a head taller than her. Northern Mo Palace's Clear Spirit Pool can wash off any spirit aura that isn't one's own. Nangong Liuyun's eyes were half-narrowed, with a cautious expression and a hint of seriousness. So you suspect that old madman could chase us without letting go? Is because my body was contaminated with his aura? Su Luo cried out in alarm. It's more precise to say that it's both of us. A trace of helplessness flashed across Nangong Liuyun's face. That day, I had a big battle with him. Presumably, I was also contaminated by his aura. Never expected that without teleportation fluctuations, afterwards, the old madman can still rely on this aura to catch up. Sure enough, one can't overlook a saint-ranked expert. Nangong Luyan, I find that you really are very two-faced. Su Luo pinched his shoulder. From the beginning, you said to hide in Northern Mo Imperial Palace, because you've already fancied this whatever Clear Spirit Pool, right? It's no wonder he didn't run to anywhere else, insisting on bringing her to run over here. She was saying, how was it that they were always headed towards the Imperial Palace? Nangong Luyan, this IQ really made people look up to destroy the grass to get rid of traces of snakes, depending on thousands of miles of routes. He had already prepared a good route, announcing the answer at the last moment. Chapter 1293, Clear Spirit Pool, 2. Su Luo had just wanted to say something, but Nangong Luyan used his mouth to block her voice. Just at this moment, the sound of footsteps came from afar and got closer to them. Princess, His Highness the Crown Prince is too much. Actually wanting to send you away to get married. A palace maid's voice approached closer and closer, and could be heard sparsely. Who told that elder brother's talent is so good, at that time, absorbing 2 snow spirit crystal stones completely? The entire royal family sees him as the rising hope for Northern Mo. How can I not let everything go his way? The princess's tone with hidden bitterness sounded. But, how can he take you to get married? Moreover, to marry someone, the little palace maid indignantly said. Since my talent isn't good, who can I blame this matter on? Blame gods and others? Third princess sadly and helplessly looked up to the sky. The princess and servant talked as they walked, directly passing by Su Luo and Nangong Liuyun's side. Separated by a very thin wall, the 2 master and servant completely didn't find anything strange. Waiting until they were far away, then Su Luo drilled out from Nangong Liuyun's arms, eyes filled with novelty as she said. Don't know which empire this third princess will be married to. It can't be Eastern Ling, right? What do you think? For Nangong Luyan, besides Su Luo, he wasn't concerned about other women, but seeing that Su Luo was curious, so he accompanied her to discuss this. It can't be to marry your father, to become your cheap mother, Su Luo stuck out her tongue, asking while letting her imagination run wild. Nangong Luyan directly flicked her forehead. Become this king's cheap mother. Isn't she also your cheap mother, Do you think you can escape? Ouch! Su Luo covered her forehead in pain, and stared bitterly at Nangong Luyan. Hateful! Nangong Luyan laughingly helped her rub her forehead and patiently explained. Eastern Ling and Northern Mo don't have a good relationship. Even if it is a marriage alliance, this girl is merely being sent to become cannon fodder. But what? Su Luo's pitch-black eyes sparkled like the stars in the night sky. She discovered that being together with Nangong Luyan was really good. She simply didn't need to use her brain, and he had already calculated everything properly. However, we can use this third princess to get snow spirit crystal stones. Nangong Luyan rubbed his chin, dark as ink eyes profoundly mysterious. Suddenly, his mouth hooked into a very devilish charming smile. This expression of Nangong Liuyun's showed that the person he calculated would be very unlucky and bleed blood. Su Luo, at this moment, felt sympathy for that person he calculated against. However, what's a snow spirit crystal stone? Su Luo expressed that she had never heard of it. Su Luo was thinking, once she get back, she must go to the book collection pavilion and read all the books about the miscellaneous things on the mainland at once. Places that used normal book knowledge were really little. Nangong Luyan, with the encyclopedic knowledge, carefully explained to her. Clear spirit pool must use snow spirit crystal stones. Absorbing the snow spirit crystal stones, not only can one get rid of another's aura, it can also wash away the impurities in the muscles and bones of the person. Let one's cultivation go up another level. Northern Mo royal family actually had such a good thing? Su Luo's slender fingers tapped at her chin, a trace of craftiness flashing through her eyes. Since it is a good thing, it can't be missed. Just these words. Nangong Luyan pulled Su Luo along and turned into a remote path, as if wind was under their feet. Their speed was amazingly fast. Not long after, Nangong Luyan had brought Su Luo to a very remote place. Such clear lake water. After stopping, Su Luo gave a big praise. Northern Mo Empire lacked water. This was something everyone on the mainland knew about. But now in front of Su Luo's eyes was a large area of light blue-colored lake water. The water and sky was one color, so clear that you could see to the bottom. Didn't expect Northern Mo Imperial Palace actually had such an exquisite place. Chapter 1294, Clear Spirit Pool 3. Passed over there is the Clear Spirit Pool. The security is more strict. We must be a bit more careful. Nangong Luyan brought Su Luo along and covertly forged ahead. Clear Spirit Pool was the Imperial Palace's most important place. The security was even stricter than the Emperor's resting palace, almost a sentry for every 10 steps, and a heap of guards stationed every 5 steps. It was also divided into sentries out in the open and sentries hidden in the dark, making it impossible for people to guard against being discovered. At this point, Su Luo's originally casual attitude had also vanished. She nodded seriously. Her expression had a touch of graveness. There were always people stronger than you. No one knew what kind of high experts were hidden in Northern Mo's Imperial Palace. So it's still important to be cautious with everything, so as to avoid the boat flipping over in a shady ravine. If it were any other day, they wouldn't have cared. However, now they were being chased by the old madman to be killed. Naturally, they must be more careful. The two very carefully and cautiously flew forward while taking all precautions. Up ahead was a magnificent, dazzling temple. The temple was guarded on all sides by strong experts. The security was airtight, not even a housefly could fly in. Su Luo and Nangong Luyan hid in the luxuriant branches of an ancient tree. Nangong Luyan's beautiful eyes turned around, and had already seen through the sentries in the open and hidden in the dark. There were 10 sentries out in the open, and there were also 10 hidden sentries. There were guards in all directions. If one were to strut in from the front, it really would be a little problematic. However, how could this problem be too difficult for Nangong Luyan? He merely blinked his eyes and thought of a brilliant idea. Nangong Luyan leaned towards Su Luo's ear and whispered a few sentences. Then you won't have any problems? Su Luo looked at him with deep concern. Your body still has some internal injuries. Although Nangong Luyan was still smiling like before along the way, his behavior wasn't a bit different from before. But how could Su Luo forget that he was hit by that berserk strike by the old madman? That clearly terrifying palm print on his chest. Su Luo often felt distressed when recalling it. Nangong Luyan indulgently pinched Su Luo's exquisite nose and intimately smiled. Luo girl, you must believe in the strength of your man, okay? But Su Luo was trying to say something, but Nangong Luyan's white, defined, jointed slender fingers stood vertical over her lips. Even if you don't believe in your man's strength, you ought to trust his intelligence, okay? Nangong Luyan's words carried a faint nasal sound, carrying an indescribable sexiness and enticement. Su Luo understood. Things that Nangong Luyan had decided on. Even 100 dragon-scaled horses couldn't drag him back. Therefore, in the end, she had no choice but to nod, and seriously told him. But you must promise me, you will return safely. Nangong Luyan smilingly pinched Su Luo's tender little cheeks, leaving behind a personal imprint belonging only to him on her bright forehead. Leaving her with his most brilliant smile, and his withdrawing back view. Nangong Liuyun's palm turned over and over, sheet after sheet of wind knives appeared. 20 sheets of wind knives, shot towards the sentries in the open and hidden in the dark. He didn't shoot at any other areas but specifically shot towards their eyes. Just when these guards' eyesight were temporarily blocked, Su Luo's speed soared to the max, like an artillery shell, rushing towards the tightly locked gate. If it was the people from Luoyang City that saw the dragon-scaled horse go through the wall on that day, they surely would feel this scene was very familiar. However now, these guards' attention was all attracted away by Nangong Luyun, and their eyesight was blocked for a split second. So, they simply do not know that just in this short instant, someone actually rushed into the temple. Nangong Luyun didn't really want to permanently blind their eyes. If he really blinded them, then the matter would become big. Then this temple would then be searched. Chapter 1295, Clear Spirit Pool 4. Therefore, these wind knives were blocked by the guards. Nangong Luyun deliberately exposed a flaw, and his figure flashed by as he then turned to run. There's an assassin. Quickly, go chase after the assassin. The captain of the guard shouted. All the 10 sentries in the open didn't move. The hidden sentries received the captain of the guard's order, and one after another, shot towards mid-air like the legendary bird spreading its wings, and chased after that strange figure to kill. Speaking of Su Luo's side, she had used the moment when these guards' eyesight was blocked by Nangong Liuyun's wind knife earlier, and quickly flew into the gate. Because Su Luo used nothingness of space to envelop her body, so this difficult step for many people was easy for her. Many people were trapped on the side of the iron lock, but this simply was not a concern for Su Luo. But this skill, besides Su Luo, very few people knew of it. These guards outside the gate certainly didn't know this. Guard A was puzzled endlessly. Just now, was that assassin trying to create a diversion? Is it possible someone ran into the temple? Guard B rightfully answered. What the fart is the use of creating a diversion? Our Clear Spirit Palace's lock is made by the #1 locksmith in this world. Unless you have the key, otherwise no one should even think of entering. Guard C agreed with what Guard B said. That's right, this lock, no one can open without the Elder Committee's agreement. Therefore, Buddy you should stop worrying that the sky is falling. Inside, separated by the gate, Su Luo covered her mouth and started to laugh softly. She had clearly entered, and they still confidently said that it was simply impossible for someone to enter. Just let these confused eggs think like this. It also made it less troublesome for her. However, when thinking of Nangong Luyun, Su Luo could no longer laugh anymore. Don't know how he was doing now, but with his current strength, as long as he didn't meet that old madman, he ought to be able to deal with all kind of situations. When Su Luo thought of Nangong Liuyun's superb IQ, she immediately felt relieved. Nangong Luyun was the kind of awesome character that, even if all the people in the world died, he could still sit there, calmly drinking tea. Not to mention his military strength, just his wise, far-sighted and shrewd schemes could kill off a large area. Therefore, instead of worrying about Nangong Luyun, she should first worry about her own situation. After laying down the worry in her heart, Su Luo started to inspect the surrounding environment. Inside the Clear Spirit Palace, there was nothing around. It was just the huge surface of a lake. Presumably, it was because first there was this lake, then after the Clear Spirit Palace was built along the lake. But comparing to the Azure Lake outside, this lake water was too strange, right? It actually was in surface of bloody red-colored lake water. Although it was clear, because of its crimson color, one simply could not see to its bottom. Su Luo lifted up a handful of water and sniffed it, before she was somewhat reassured. Fortunately, this wasn't blood. There was no strong odor of blood. Without snow spirit crystal stones, this clear spirit pool, with regards to Su Luo, was useless. Su Luo sat along the lake's shore, her 2 little feet crossed and stuck into the water's surface, and entertained herself happily. At this point, a small sound came from outside the door. Did you guys hear it? There seemed to be sounds coming from inside. Guard A always felt that someone had ran inside. What sound? Is it because your ears are having hallucinations? Guard B, from the beginning, firmly believed that no one ran inside. There isn't even a ghost inside. How could there be a sound? Guard C still firmly stood on Guard B's side. Chapter 1296, Clear Spirit Pool 5. Don't tell me it's really my ear that's hearing hallucinations? Guard A was persuaded by these two people to the extent of somewhat doubting himself. It's an illness that needs to be treated, Guard B said in a low tone. Must be treated. Guard C firmly supported Guard B. Oh, guess when I go back I'll have to sleep properly. It's probably because I've been too tired lately. Guard A was finally convinced by those two blockheads to give up on his own thoughts. When Su Luo heard this conversation from outside, the smile at the corners of her lips widened even further. Just at this moment, all of a sudden, Su Luo felt a subtle sound coming from above her head. Before Su Luo could react, she discovered that she had been pulled tightly into the chest of a black shadow. The familiar male scent immediately made Su Luo's eyes flash with a trace of brightness. Nangong Luyan, it really is you. Su Luo grabbed his arms, pleasantly surprised. She looked him up and down. Only after seeing that he had come out unscathed did she finally let out a breath of relief. Silly girl, besides me, who would dare to hug you? A hint of a strong aggressiveness flashed by like waves in His Highness Prince Jin's eyes. Only he could hug his woman. Miser. Su Luo poked his cheek and then asked with a flower-like smiling face. The matter has been settled well? Your husband personally took action. Can there be a matter that isn't settled properly? Nangong Luyan complacently wiggled his thick black blade-like eyebrows. You should just stay on that side and be proud of yourself. Can't be bothered with you. Su Luo had just stood up. However, before she could stand firm, her ankle was pulled by Nangong Luyan, who harbored evil designs, and she was directly tossed into the scarlet-colored lake waters. When she fell into the lake, a splash sound could be heard. Immediately, Su Luo's pair of eyes glared fiercely at Nangong Luyan. Even Nangong Luyan was startled stiff as he foolishly looked at Su Luo. At this time, the two of them simultaneously turned their heads towards the doorway, because soft conversational noises were coming from there. Guard A scooped out his ear, cupped his eyes and muttered to himself, "This hallucinatory hearing disease seems to be getting more and more serious." Guard B nodded his head in agreement. After returning, must treat it properly, so as to avoid interfering with the assignments given by those above us. Inside the temple, Su Luo's entire person was resting on Nangong Luoyun's shoulders, convulsing with laughter. However, fortunately, she managed to contain it and didn't let out any sound. Nangong Luoyun patted her head while laughing. With great difficulty, Su Luo finally finished laughing. Her breathing also evened out. Only then did she ask softly, "Didn't you go to grab the snow spirit crystal stone? Why don't I see it?" Nangong Luoyun smiled with a face full of profound mystery. The corners of his mouth hooked into a mysterious smile. Rest assured, naturally, someone will send it over. Not long after he finished saying this, fragmented footsteps could be heard coming from outside the temple. Furthermore, if one listened carefully, one would realize that it was a lot of people. When the guards outside the door saw the approaching people, astonishment immediately flashed across their eyes. At this time, why did Second Elder come here? Moreover, he even brought along Third Princess? The guards were inwardly puzzled, yet they still stood where they were, adhering strictly to their posts. The guard captain respectfully greeted. "Second Elder, you've come?" Second Elder was dressed in a cyan robe, with both hands held behind his back and an arrogantly cold appearance. He looked down arrogantly and cast the guard captain an indifferent glance, then in an ice-cold manner, arrogantly humphed. "Has anything happened recently?" The guard captain initially wanted to report according to the facts and reveal the assassin incident which had just happened. However, seeing Second Elder's arrogant appearance, he followed the principle of avoiding unnecessary trouble and concealed this matter. The guard captain stooped down, lowered his gaze, and said correctly, "Thanks to Second Elder's good fortune, everything is well in Clear Spirit Palace." Chapter 1297, Clear Spirit Pool 6, Second elder humphed coldly, then threw out a key. Open the gates. Yes, sir. The guard captain caught the strangely shaped key and went to study those complicated chains. That third princess behind the second elder watched these gates with eyes full of expectation. She put her palms together and prayed quietly. She prayed that after entering, she would be able to change her predetermined fate. The second elder turned his head back and shot a glance at the third princess. A contemptuous smile flashed across his eyes. If it hadn't been because the empress made a promise, he wouldn't have come to do more than was required of him. Clearly, she was a useless person. How could she possibly turn into a genius after a few years? The gates, with a creaking sound, opened quietly. Before the second elder and the others went inside, Garda suspiciously took a peep inside. There wasn't a single ripple in the scarlet-red lake water, and it was empty all around. There simply wasn't another person. It seemed that he truly did have visual and auditory hallucinations. Garda scratched his head and laughed with hee-hee sounds in embarrassment. The second elder and the third princess walked slowly inside. The second elder had a dark expression as he swept a glance over the third princess. Then he said apathetically, "You only have one chance. I hope you can grasp it well." "I thank second elder for giving Ronger this chance." The third princess curtsied. Inside the royal family, the elder group had power which reached into the skies, almost above even the imperial powers. Even when the emperor saw someone from the elder group, he would be submissive. Naturally, this third princess did not dare to be impudent. The second elder was icily arrogant and gave a heavy snort. So quick to say such nonsense. Hurry up and go down. After being reprimanded, the rims of the third princess's eyes reddened slightly, but she dared not complain. She simply nodded and walked barefoot, step by step, walking into the center of the lake. The second elder smiled coldly. Immediately after, he tossed a white crystal stone into the scarlet-red lake waters. "Give you an hour. If you still can't refine it, then you'll just have to wait to marry into the Eastern Ling Empire." The second elder turned around to sit down on a praying mat on the ground. Then he closed his eyes and began to meditate. The third princess tearfully and solemnly nodded. She wasn't a fool. Now that Northern Emo was becoming a threat to Eastern Ling, sending her over, saying to get married, in fact, it was to lull the nerves of Eastern Ling, to make them think that Northern Emo had intentions of peace. Then, to catch them off guard. For her to be sent over to Eastern Ling under these circumstances, where would she still have the fate to live? The third princess thought up to here and was even more determined to refine the snow spirit crystal stone. As long as she could refine the snow spirit crystal stone, even if it's just 1/5 of this fist-sized snow spirit crystal stone, then it would prove that she was capable of washing the impurities from her marrow. So she could cultivate her family's martial art. Only like this would she be able to live. The third princess sat cross-legged in the center of the scarlet-red lake. With her eyes shut tight, she refined this snow spirit crystal stone with single-hearted devotion. However, the tragic thing was that no matter how wholeheartedly she devoted herself to refining, the snow spirit crystal stone floating before her was like an obstinate, unchangeable stone, simply bereft of even a little bit of a sign that it was softening. The later it got, the more the third princess lost her cool. Cold sweat on her face dripped down with brushing sounds. It doesn't work. It still doesn't work. Why is it like this? Clearly, just earlier, she was able to send out a water ball high up into the sky. This showed that she had made remarkable progress with her water element system. How could it be like this? The third princess was so anxious that she nearly went around in circles. At this moment, under the lake water, in a spot near the third princess, there were two shadows hidden there. These two people weren't anybody else, but Su Luo and Nangong Luyan. Just now, before Su Luo finished asking her question, the second elder had already brought the third princess over. Without saying anything more, Nangong Luyan had carried Su Luo and gone into hiding under the lake waters. Chapter 1298, Clear Spirit Pool 7. Fortunately, this lake water was scarlet red. Although it was clear, The bottom of the lake wasn't visible, so not a single person knew that the two people were hiding in the lake. That guard A, who was somewhat suspicious, had also been influenced by his comrades and dispelled his suspicions. Underwater, the two people had no way to talk, so they could only use hand signs to communicate. That stone is too far away. We can't reach it. This was Su Luo's hand signs. No problem, watch me. Nangong Luyin smiled confidently. Su Luo didn't know how he did it either. All she saw was him taking a deep breath. Then that snow spirit crystal stone, which wasn't nearby, unexpectedly began to emit bubbles. In a flash, it was 1/5 smaller. When third princess saw this, she was so startled that her entire person almost jumped up. What happened? What had just happened? She didn't seem to have refined it, right? So, how did the snow spirit crystal stone get refined 1/5 by itself? The third princess doubtfully looked all around the broad lake surface, but she was the only one there. Apart from her, there was only second elder, who was sitting ashore in meditation. That old man would not be so kind as to help her. The third princess knitted her eyebrows. Could it be that even the heavens were on her side? Or perhaps this 1/5 of the snow spirit crystal stone from just now was really refined by her? Thinking up till here, an overjoyed expression suddenly appeared on the third princess's face. The third princess didn't have time to think about this further, and hurriedly held her breath with rapt attention. Then, she continued refining this snow spirit crystal stone. At the bottom of the lake, Su Luo and Nangong Luyin grinned at each other, like two crafty old foxes. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. The refining speed of this fist-sized snow spirit crystal stone was really fast. After an hour, second elder unhurriedly opened his eyes. He apathetically swept a glance over the third princess and jeered coldly. I told you that you couldn't do it, right? This time you finally give up, right? In the future, just be obedient and marry into the Eastern. Before he finished saying the word Ling, this second elder seemed as if he'd seen a ghost. His pair of eyes opened wide and was perfectly round, while his facial muscles twitched incessantly. How is this possible? In his emotional state, the second elder flew directly into the water and grabbed that fingernail-sized remnant of the snow spirit crystal stone. He stared incredulously at that tiny piece of snow spirit crystal stone, and then fixed his attention on the third princess with a disbelieving expression. His eyes were lit up like a snow blade, as if wanting to impale the third princess. This is refined by you. The second elder clearly couldn't control his emotions. The third princess had never seen the arrogant and ice-cold second elder look so human. However, in order not to be sent off to be married, this delicate third princess stuck out her small chest, raised her little face, and firmly made a fist. Second elder, I haven't finished absorbing it. The third princess's face had a slight flush of red because of fear. Even she couldn't understand this situation. It was obvious she had no way of refining the snow spirit crystal stone. As such, she hadn't gained any energy either. The crystal stone had done it on its own. But well, in short, this was a good thing for her. So the third princess firmly gave her admission. Good. Good. You've unexpectedly refined this snow spirit crystal stone to this degree. It's amazing. The second elder changed his earlier icily arrogant expression and amiably patted the third princess's shoulder. All right, continue with your refining. You'll get enough snow spirit crystal stones to refine. The second elder's old face smiled like a chrysanthemum flower, showing the excitement and joy in his heart. How many years had it been? How many years had it been since a genius like this had appeared in Northern Mo? The more the snow spirit crystal stone was absorbed, meant the greater the potential. Back then, he himself had absorbed 2/3 of a snow spirit crystal stone, and now, he was already a commander rank expert. Chapter 1299, Clear Spirit Pool, 8. However, this third princess, who was originally a waste, had managed to absorb 4/5 of the snow spirit crystal stone in just a short hour. Moreover, she still said it wasn't enough. She wanted to absorb some more. With such a discovery, how could the second elder not be happy? Not be shaken? At this time, the expression second elder used to watch the third princess was simply like he was looking at a rare unique treasure, afraid she would have some sort of mishap. Now he wasn't even cultivating anymore. He just attentively watched the third princess cultivate. At the bottom of the lake, Su Luo and Nangong Luyun continued using hand signals to communicate soundlessly, being watched so attentively by that second elder. Can you still absorb it? Su Luo asked with deep concern. Just watch and you'll find out. The corners of Nangong Luyun's mouth hooked into a demonically enchanting smile. His eyes closed tightly as he faced that tiny snow spirit crystal stone, slowly refining it. The second elder stood ashore. His line of sight was a bit far, but he could still clearly see that the snow spirit crystal stone was emitting sizzling sounds and tiny bubbles. It was nibbled away bit by bit. Good. This is truly great. The second elder was so excited that his eyes almost popped out, seeing how the snow spirit crystal stone was almost completely absorbed, and yet the third princess was still over there, refining with her eyes closed. The second elder became even more excited. He made a decision. After the third princess came ashore, he would rush up and make her his disciple before others could step forward. He must be fast. Otherwise, she would be stolen by those few other old guys, with no place for him. With this sort of unsurpassed innate skill which was unique in the whole world, one had to have fast hands to keep it. Slow hands would get nothing. That tiny snow spirit crystal stone emitted some bubbles, and then completely disappeared. The second elder didn't say a word more, and put in another snow spirit crystal stone. This snow spirit crystal stone was even bigger than the previous one. The second elder estimated. This time it should let the third princess absorb until she's satisfied, right? However, what made the second elder ecstatic was that after putting in this snow spirit crystal stone, which was the size of 2 fists, before 1 hour was reached, it was actually completely absorbed again. Good. Simply great. The second elder paced excitedly on the shore, excitedly rubbing his hands together. What to do? It has already been nearly 100 years since such a monstrous genius last appeared in northern Mo. When he saw the second snow spirit crystal stone get absorbed completely, the second elder excitedly put in a third snow spirit crystal stone. After refining this one, it should be enough, right? The second elder gazed fixedly without blinking at the third princess. However, what made him not know whether to cry or smile was that this third snow spirit crystal stone was once again soon to be completely absorbed. This is simply a rhythm which defies the natural order. A monster. The second elder was afraid that not having enough crystal stones would negatively affect the development of the third princess's potential. So he threw down a line. Second grandpa will go get more snow spirit crystal stones. I'll come back really quickly. Wait for second grandpa, ha! The originally arrogant and ice-cold second elder had, at this time, already upgraded himself to second grandpa. Of course, he could just call someone else to deliver the snow spirit crystal stones here. But the second elder was afraid the third princess's genius potential would be made known to the other old fellows. So he would rather make the trip himself. At this time, the third princess's complexion had already gone from pale to scarlet red. Currently, she was extremely puzzled. She completely didn't understand what was going on. Seeing the back view of second elder leaving hurriedly, the third princess secretly and quietly let out a breath of relief. Fortunately, second grandpa left. Otherwise she would fall apart. The third princess knocked her own head depressedly. The snow spirit crystal stones were gradually refined, yet the spiritual energy on her body didn't increase in the least. Just what was going on exactly? The more the third princess thought about it, the more afraid she became. If the second elder found out that the snow spirit crystal stones were refined, and yet her own strength didn't actually increase even a little bit, by that time, would the old man get so angry that he would personally choke her to death? Thinking up to here, the third princess couldn't stay still. She hurriedly climbed ashore, put on a new robe, and fled at lightning speed. Chapter 1300. The secret was leaked. 1. After third princess fled, Su Luo and Nangong Luyun looked at each other in dismay. Do you think she realized something? Su Luo blinked her thick and slightly curled eyelashes. It's not like she's a fool. How could she not know? Don't you think so? Nangong Luyan provocatively pinched Su Luo's tapering snow-white chin, the corners of his mouth hooked into an enchanting and demonic smile. His meaningful glance was enigmatic and enticing. Su Luo slapped his hand away in annoyance and asked nonchalantly, "When that fiendish second elder comes back and he doesn't see the dim-witted third princess, you guess what will he do?" Nangong Luyan pulled out a large and soft snow-white scarf from his space ring and carefully wiped clean Su Luo's hair. Seeing Su Luo ask this, he then took his time to answer. Such an astonishingly talented and magnificently rare genius. How could he possibly let her run away? So even if he has to dig 1 meter, he'll still retrieve back the third princess. Su Luo basked in Nangong Luyan's thoughtful service while firmly saying this. Nangong Luyan finished drying Su Luo's hair, and then helped her tie up her hair. In fact, Su Luo was a fire element mage. As long as her spirit power revolved 1 round inside, the temperature on top of her head would even burn. Why would she be afraid that her hair wouldn't dry? However, at this moment, the two people both seemed to have forgotten this matter. One was eagerly attentive and caring for the other, while the other was obediently relishing in this. "All done, my princess." Nangong Luyan tucked the last small bundle of fine black hair into a bun. He took a step back, looking at her carefully, then the corners of his mouth hooked up in satisfaction. "Does it look good?" Su Luo touched her hair bun. Because she couldn't see it, she was somewhat vexed. Nangong Luyan's bladed brows raised slightly, both of his hands pulled from up to down, like opening a scroll painting. A glossy water screen suddenly appeared before Su Luo. Su Luo knew Nangong Luyan has 3 attributes, distributed as wind, water, and lightning. However, she didn't know that Nangong Luyan could even pull this sort of trick with his water attribute. This was a transparent water screen. Su Luo clearly saw that her fine black hair was tied up perfectly. This hairstyle was fresh, clean, bright, and beautiful, like spring sunshine and morning dew, giving off a thriving vitality. Su Luo nodded with satisfaction. "It is indeed not bad. Never thought that you'd still know how to do this. Do you normally practice it often?" Nangong Luyan smiled and took hold of Su Luo's slim waist. Then he extended his slender finger, which was fair as jade, and marked her forehead with a tap. "You got away with a small advantage, and still trying to sell an obedient little girl expression. In this world, you're the only one who can make this king tie up her hair. This is this king's first time." "Really?" Su Luo's smile was sweet and unctuous. "Who would dare let this king try? Who wouldn't be afraid that I'd remove her head instead?" Nangong Luyan pulled a long face and said dead earnestly, "Uft." Su Luo laughed and pinched His Highness Prince Jin's sharp and distinctly handsome face. "Remember, if in the future you dare to tie up someone else's hair, be careful, I'll take off her head." "Little girl who tends to be jealous. This king has already been trapped by you for life. Really pitiful, ah." This time, it was Nangong Luyan's turn to act the part of getting away with a small advantage and selling an obedient expression. "Pitiful your ass. When the second elder comes chasing after, then it'll truly be pitiful. Quickly run, ah." Su Luo saw they had tarried long enough and so stopped her flirtatious banter with Nangong Luyan. Humph. Finished using someone and then conveniently throw them away. Nangong Luyan unhappily turned away. Ji twice. "Hey, my great uncle Nangong, what time is it already and still want to throw a little brat's tantrum? Let's just hurry up and leave." Su Luo forcefully dragged him. His gown was trailing on the ground, and brought Nangong Luyan away from the scene of the crime. The snow spirit crystal stone wasn't an ordinary object, and there wouldn't be that many in Northern Mo's inventory, now that 3 of the stones had been secretly absorbed by them. If Northern Mo's royal family found out, they'd definitely go insane from anger. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.